Uh-oh. Here we go. This is another episode of UFO Garage. I'm Ben. I'm Joe. And this is where we talk about them UFOs, aliens, and all things weird.
All things weird.
I think that was perfect, man. What do you think?
That was perfect.
That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Good call.
All right, dude. So today's going to be pretty awesome, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we got our buddies from B.O.B.B here with us today. Man, they're looking quite patriotic as usual. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
We're good, man. We're good. Micah, what's up, dude? I mean, sorry, William. What's up, dude?
You don't matter. No, what's happening, guys? No, we're excited to be here. I'm not gonna lie though. When you guys reached out to us and were like, "Hey, do you guys want to come on and hang out and chat?" I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to." But then, looking back at your list of guests that you guys have had, everything from Eric Mitchell to Lorian Fenton to Ryan Sprague, and then you got two guys like us, just like, "Heck yeah, we're gonna bring our beards and we're gonna." So I'm excited.
We couldn't have it any other way, man. I mean, your podcast is awesome, dude. You've been having some awesome guests, awesome topics. Dude, feelings are mutual. I mean, I feel like we almost started around the same time. We have a pretty cool history. You guys William, you started listening to our show, really around the same time we started, and then that kind of, and then you started your podcast, so we kind of started around the same time, or I don't know how many months were in between.
Yeah,
but
I think it was episode 12 when I caught you guys, and I started within probably a month. So probably episode maybe 16 for you guys.
Yeah.
Roughly in there was when we actually started. And for those of us that don't know, we're Bob, we're bearded brothers, and we talk about kind of the same things. Michael, what would you say? We're critical thinkers. Would you say is that what we label ourselves as? I guess. I mean, I don't know if you identify.
I like to think of myself as a critical thinker. There's certain times where tonight that might not be one of those. I don't normally drink, but
Well, yeah. I think we all like to think of ourselves as critical thinkers, right? That's the way it goes, man. But yeah, man, I'm super glad that you guys were able to make it on today.
For sure.
It's about content, right? Not about people,
That's
It's
right.
But you guys have been awesome. Y'all been following for a while. Even Philip, right? Philip's gonna maybe start his own little thing too. So that's cool, man. Our little community. That's what makes this special. Is that you don't have to be an Eric Mitchell or a Lorian Fenton or anything like that, man. It's about the community, and this is cool because now you guys have your podcast, and now we get to hang out like this and be able to chit chat back and forth. So that's pretty exciting, man. Pretty exciting.
I think it's a nice balance. I think what I want to have for the podcast too is we can have people that are experts in the field, but most of the time for me, I just want to speculate and just have an open conversation about I don't know a lot about this, but what if it was about this?
But I mean, the nice thing about it is that it goes to show that you don't have to be an expert to have an opinion or some ideas, and that's us, I mean, we're not experts, but we got a lot of ideas. So that's the whole point of this.
I would say that's one thing for our, if anybody wanted to ever check us out or whatever, is that, we brought our show together with the idea of, I'm more like you guys. I'm really into more of the obscure things, you could say cryptids, aliens, just like you guys. I love how you guys were able to tag that in your name of all things weird, because I feel like that's where I end up falling into more than anything.
Yeah.
We do have Mike as part of the show, which he brings to it, which is more of he's probably much more critical thinker than I am, as far as at least being level-headed, right? I can get caught up in the fantastic part of the story, as it were, when you start embellishing it. I don't want to say embellish, but when you start to go along in it, the idea of the what if, right? And you can go down a rabbit hole of what if. So you do need that kind of, I don't want to use the term yin and yang, but it helps to have him there to kind of all right, what about this point of view? And it just come at a different level, because I like to believe, man, it's hard. I have to hold myself back sometimes. So, if you guys are into the whole idea of, What would you say? This one is gonna. Would this fall under weird, Micah? Or where does this fall? Because our whole thing is we'll talk about weird things, but let's try if there is a paper trail, especially military or any of those things. Let's bring that here. Let's have that documentation because. Right, or otherwise, if we're just sitting here talking, I'm like, yeah, there's totally 3-headed Bigfoot out there. That's just me saying something, right? Like I've got to try and bring some evidence to my said case that I want to present. So I feel that both of us try our best. And if we're ever wrong, we eat crow. We say, hey, here's where we messed up. And, we try to show that. And we're very honest that way. So I don't know, Mike, is there anything you want to add about that to our show before we kind of tell them what we're talking about tonight? They don't even know what we're talking about. They're like, guys, come on the show.
Just tell us.
We're going to figure it out.
No, I think this one kind of falls under the weird category. I think it could very well have a logical explanation. But it is, I think it's very open to interpretation. Everyone's going to look at the story differently, and they're going to think about the story differently. So everyone's going to have their own opinion, I think. So I would just classify it under the weird category.
All right. Yeah. So what are we getting into today?
So I'm sure that anybody who's remotely looked at this. So obviously, Ben, when you reached out to me, you mentioned us talking about Bigfoot or something of a cryptid nature, which Mike and I had the She Squatchers on our show, and they gave us a great insight in their take, right? Yeah. That's the amazing thing about when it comes to Indies.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just cut right in there.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I'm curious to hear what they say, too. I just get so excited.
Yeah. So I have to admit, for myself, we have not gone that deep on Bigfoot yet. We really haven't, right? We had been covering more of the alien stuff, and connections that we had that way, as well as some of the more recent events in, I guess you could say, U.S. government. Excuse me. But tonight we're staying off that. We're sticking to cryptids. We're keeping it weird. We're just going to stay on that kind of a path. If you want to qualify it as weird.
I don't think we've had an episode yet where we didn't mention Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm telling you, it's the Rona, Jeffrey Epstein, and QAnon. Those are like the three things that are just circulating like crazy.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure people are tired of hearing of it.
For sure. So today we're going to talk about, first of all, real quick, before we get going, what are you guys drinking over there? What do you guys?
Shit. We got Founders Pilsner, American hopped Pilsner. Oh, there's twice. Pilsner's in there twice.
Pilsner. It's a Pilsner.
Double the Pilsner. It looked very light and summery, almost lemony. It's not lemony.
It's very hoppy.
It's not light. It's very hoppy. But it came in a 15-pack, so that's what caught my eye.
Nice.
Yeah. 15 beers?
Pack. They were like...
Hey, can you shove 3 more in there?
Yeah, because I know every time that I get a 12-pack, I'm like, shit, I wish I had a couple more.
I wish I had 3 more.
Perfect. Great idea.
What are y'all sipping on?
Yeah. What are we? So I think Mike might have some of the same things. I actually have the first one I started out with is something really light because I want to try and stay focused, deliver facts. Bring the story in a factual manner, and then I'm gonna rip open my Reds Tall Boys once we're going down the weird path. Dude, I'm telling you, this is gonna have endless speculation. Like there is no right answer. There's probably a lot of wrong answers, but I really don't know that there's going to be a right answer on this. So going forward, this is kind of like, Micah, what episode did we cover? Was it Stephen Kabaki? And I think it was like episode 13 that we covered where we came out with more questions than going in. Just like if you've touched on anybody who's ever looked at the Skinwalker stuff, right? Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get a chance to listen to that episode you guys posted on the page. Was that a pretty eye-opening episode? If anybody got a chance to listen, I don't know if either you two got a chance.
So I posted the Joe Rogan Experience episode with Jeremy Corbell and the guy who broke it wide open. Jesus, I'm so bad at names.
It was Jesus himself.
No, and Jesus.
You're kidding me. Now there's Jesus out at Skinwalker. Are you kidding?
That's the only thing we were missing was Jesus, and I was Skinwalker Ranch has Jesus.
I swear, I like.
Oh my God.
I know. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Anytime it's like a very critical moment, and I'm like, all right, Ben's brain. It's like on that last little spark. It's like two sock puppets talking to each other, like. And I can't fucking think of it.
Oh man,
it's George Knapp. Thank you,
George Knapp.
George Knapp.
Oh, yes. Okay,
Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. They were on the Joe Rogan Experience, and they, I mean, basically broke down the whole. It's what you see in that documentary, in Search for the Skinwalker, Jeremy Corbell's documentary, and man,
they never found it.
I mean, they did go really hard on it, and which was cool. Forgot to turn my light on. But I mean, it's nothing that you haven't heard before if you've been following this, like the Skinwalker stuff for a really long time. I'm not saying this content was bad, but like, we're into this kind of stuff, and you guys are too. So I'm pretty sure that
Micah, would you say that was your most challenging episode that we've done, as far as you got to present a lot of the storyline, as it were, in that one? So you had to do a lot of the research. We'd kind of kept it separate up to the point where I was doing the weird stuff and he was doing the factual stuff. And then we were like, let's switch it up a little bit. Let's have you kind of, present the story and I'll just be kind of along for the ride. How did you feel presenting the whole Skinwalker thing? Was that kind of was that too much for you compared to the Tic Tac video and all that? Was your stance on that?
I think it was. I mean, I'm sure if I rewatch the episode, I'm sure you'd be able to see it in my eyes of certain things that came up, and I'm like, okay, if you say so. But I don't know. It's there was a lot more that we could have added to that, but we would have had a 5-hour episode, and I wasn't looking for that, so I was just trying to get kind of to the point. William was very like, let's deep dive into each incident, which would have lasted forever. But
even with this, we're gonna. Oh, go ahead, Micah.
What it is, I think I'd still prefer to stick with things that I can say, for sure that this is what happened. This is why it happened.
Well, you can tell that was because I actually really enjoyed that episode because I noticed that you guys kind of flipped roles a little bit. And Micah, you were just like, I can't believe I'm saying this shit. It was so great. I loved it. I loved that episode.
Yeah. You're like reluctantly saying it was a bulletproof wolf, and a portal opened and the guys were like flying out.
Yeah.
I mean, back to like the story that the post that I posted this week or yesterday or whatever day it was, like I just remembered that we did an episode on Skinwalker Ranch too.
Yeah.
But what they did, which was interesting in this one, is they talked to like Joe Rogan, asked him face to face, like, what evidence do you have? What's the proof? And he's like, none. We don't have any. We don't have any proof. Like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, scientists were out there for years.
Yeah.
It was just as frustrating for them too, because they don't have any proof either. Anytime you would try and find it or look at it, it wanted you to know that it was there, but it didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
I did find it interesting that anybody who's looked up, we briefly mentioned it before, and I know you guys have hit on it a lot, the whole ATIP stuff, the last government secretly studied program on UFOs. That actually was funded mainly for the idea of the Skinwalker Ranch stuff, but it was under the guise of that. So it was interesting that they had that tied in where, like, publicly you could kind of see the Skinwalker stuff if you dug into it, but really you had to dig in a little bit deeper. And I feel like any of these subjects we ever hit on, it's like that, right? There's like that, all right, we're going to have like the Fall Guy story if somebody digs into it where they hit that and like, oh my God, I figured it out. But really it's like, you got to like, there's going to be another story below that one if you just go a little bit different. Like you guys always said, and anybody who knows how to research anything has always said, like, follow the money, right? But I guess enough rattling about all the previous stories. Let's talk to you guys what we're going to talk about today. So
let's get into some Bigfoot.
I know, right?
Hey, hold on. One thing though, I did want to just add this because you were talking about the ATIP program, and it even goes back further to a couple of Bigelow's other research institutions. One that was NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, and then he also had BASS, which was the Bigelow Aerospace Engineering. That's kind of how the ATIP stuff, started rolling in, and once they gave up on Skinwalker Ranch, they were like, fuck it, we'll give it to somebody else. Let's go back to aliens. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there, too, because, it's a cool line of history. Like, if you go back far enough, it's cool.
That is one guy, too, that does not care. Like some people, and I think less people are starting to care, but that's one guy who's never cared. They're like, how do you feel about the idea that people know you believe in aliens? He's like, I literally don't care. Like, feel what you want. I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? I have the money to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. So, so Ben, not to completely disappoint you or the listeners today, we are slightly talking about Bigfoot. But I wanted to kind of go to the history of it. I was like, well, let's try and dig in. Like you're saying, we always want to like, how far back can we go in history with any said subject, right? So Mike hadn't really been working on this idea. This had been mine in the background, kind of on the back burner idea of like, I want to eventually get into the story, but I had no real research that was like fundamentally here. I can give you these links and pull up. So when you got a hold of me, it exponentially sped that process up of me like, all right, I got to figure this crap out. So today, we're going to deal with, I wanted to deal with the idea of Yeti, right? More over the Nepal and things of that nature, because that dates way farther back than even just Bigfoot in North America. Not to say that we don't have some instances, as if the She Squatchers had mentioned, with Native Americans and stuff talking about that. But to be honest, from what Mike and I looked up, a lot of that seemed to be speculation, to be honest. There was not a lot of like, over in Nepal, there's like the Tibetan monks and stuff that have that written in their scrolls and scripts about this. So not saying we need that paper trail, but like, again, if our whole thing is like, we like to have a paper trail, we had a paper trail. And specifically, we want to cover the Diatlip Pass incident. So that's what we were hoping to talk about with you guys today. So I don't know if either of you two gentlemen know much about the Diatlip Pass incident. You've never heard of it? No way. What? No.
How can you say Diatlip?
Yeah. Now, I could be murdering these words. Oh, wait 1 second.
Well, he probably is.
Pass. Dude, I thought you were about to pull.
He's getting naked.
Mother Russia.
Oh my god.
Yeti.
Dude, this is the thumbnail for YouTube.
Okay. Are we ready now?
Yeah.
No, we're ready. Comrades. All right. Oh, dang it. I don't know where that went.
How hot is it over there right
dude, now? It's going to get hot. It's going to get real hot. I debated it a lot. I'm like, do I want to do this? And I'm like, yes, I do want to do this. So I'm doing it. I'm committed. Yeah, so the Diatlov Pass incident is, since I guess I was hoping you guys would know a little bit about it, but that's okay. If you don't, I will read just a little bit. I don't want to get too caught up on just reading endless information. We had one god awful episode.
Can I take a stab at it?
Yeah. You can pick
just in case I have heard it. Is it about the research team that went exploring for, I guess, like a Yeti or a Bigfoot? And I guess they all disappeared.
Oh yeah, and their shit was all up in the trees.
Shit was in the trees, and there was body parts found. Is that?
Yep. Yeah, that's the incident we're going to deal with today.
That's awesome.
Hell,
so that's
we've got a short recap. Yes, go.
Yes. No, yeah, you're fine. So I personally hadn't heard much about this until actually shout out to Ryan Sprague. I had heard his episode. Anybody who hasn't checked that out, sorry guys. Every time we go on our own show or other people's show, I always feel like we're suggesting other podcasts versus our own or whose we're on. It's terrible. But I mean, I believe he was on your guys' show, right? He came on and hung out with you guys a little bit. So seems like a pretty cool guy. He covered this particular incident, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. And obviously Ryan Sprague he's awesome. He's a great job at like just elegantly laying things out in a very concise manner. So if you want to hear it in a concise manner, go listen to that episode. I think it's episode 135 on his show. Today, you're going to hear the B.O.B version of the Diatlip Pass. It's going to be a little bit different. But I will quickly lay out just the facts of what you guys are talking about. And then I have a ton of notes and some links that I want to send to you guys so that you can kind of follow along with what we're talking about. And the reason I don't want to go too far into it because there was a great link. Shout out to Krista Stock from our Facebook page over at B.O.B. She actually, when she heard we were going to be talking about this, sent me another link that I had never found. And this link is beyond informative. Like they break down individual photos, the relationship, the dynamic between the the expedition and their own relationships and even body language within the photos. Like they go so far into this, like, please just, if you want to be that person who needs all the information, go to that, because they've already done the work. So why would I want to do, you know what I mean? It just bog you down with just like endless amounts of information. Mike, is there anything you want to note really quick before I kind of just read this particular incident? Or are you good to kick her off?
Not until we like maybe start digging into it.
Okay.
But no, not at this very moment.
Okay. No, that's
Yeti,
fine.
That's Yeti for no.
Yeah. So the Diatlov Pass incident obviously took place, it says in Russian, but that isn't exactly 100%. That's kind of accurate, but not accurate. But anyways, the Dyatlov Pass incident is the mysterious death of 9 ski hikers in the northern Ural Mountains on February 2nd, 1959. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women. Most were students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnical Institute. The goal of the 14 expedition was to reach Orten. By the way, I'm going to murder a ton of these names tonight, so you guys be prepared for that, man.
You got the Russian hat on, so you're fine.
That's true, right? Yeah, I'm well, now, God's sake, Micah brought up, I probably could be, what is it? What's that called when you appropriate, like a...
Oh, culture appropriation.
Dude, he got after me for doing a pirate voice the other day. I was like, I just did a freaking pirate voice. Who's going to be getting pissed about me doing
Pirates invented democracy.
I think that's wait.
Oh my God. All right. I'll read fast. You guys listen fast and we'll get through this fast. Are you guys ready? Because this hat's hotter than I thought it was going to be. I'm just kidding. So, really quickly then, it's a mountain 10 kilometers and 6 miles north of the site of the incident. The route at that season was estimated as category 3. So they list these categories when you're climbing as either A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, 3 or C being the most difficult.
So does Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Michael Jackson.
A, B, C.
Oh,
A, B,
yeah.
C, 1, 2, 3. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3.
Sorry.
I'm
not used to that. I'm not used to the humor with Micah. Micah's like, facts. Give me the facts. He's not really. I wasn't ready for the Michael Jackson statement. But those are facts. He did that. That is a thing. So, anyways, I would never be a fan of this. These people are enthusiasts who loved going out. Like, this is in January. And where'd we say this was at, by the way, Micah? I know I just said in the Ural Mountains. Like, who wants to go hiking in the mountains? Like, Mother Rush, let's go. We get the skis. We got the, like, this is crazy to me that that's the time of the year that they would pick to go out on a ski expedition. But we're going to get into some of that. So anyways, point being, this was the most difficult level. Yeah, Micah, go for it.
What other time do you go on a ski expedition?
Fair point. You got me. I would assume that the mountains generally have snow, but factually, yeah, you got me.
I feel like everybody thinks that Russia is cold all the time, though.
Yeah, it's just always snowy.
I don't think.
The Ural Mountains, right? When the Ural Mountains, I should have pulled that up. Maybe Mikey can pull it up, but I would think that it would be snowy and cold a lot of the time. I could totally be wrong about that, but that was my American assumption. So maybe that was my first mistake.
You're doing American. It's cold all the time, so they're like right next door.
There you go.
It's not.
What's all right, real quick then. So number 3, category 3, the most difficult. All members were experienced in long ski tours and mountain expeditions. The group arrived by train at Ividel, a city at the center of the northern province of Serdovonsky. I don't know. It's Oblast on January 25th. Then took a truck to Vizhay, the last inhabited settlement so far. Was forced to go back because wait a second. The last inhabited settlement so far north that they started their march toward Orten from Vaishesen January 27th. So point being, from the 25th was the last inhabitable place, which was the Oblast or whatever. That was the last inhabited place of human beings. And they kind of were on their expedition already at the time. And by the way, this was no whim, like off the cuff, like, hey, like just 9 of us, or there's actually 10 of them at this time. Let's just go on this trip. This was planned out for months. This was something that it was, like I said, their passion. They were extremely, this was what they did what's the term I'm looking for, an advantageous manner. So they had really planned this out. These weren't, even though they were all really young. I think there was one guy who was like 37 or something like that. Michael, what was that guy? Which one was that? Was that Zimian? One of them, but the rest of them were all like 25 and under. They're all really young. Some of them had either just graduated or were still currently in school. So they were just doing this expedition. One of them was doing it for the idea that he could be I guess there's these guys who you can like be a guide, but you can also be a mountain climber instructor. And so if he made this particular hike or trek, he would have gotten his level 3 training. So it would have been like the last one he had to do. And he'd promised his parents it was going to be like the last one he did too. So kind of sucks. He
gets to be an Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Look at Mom, I'd be an Eagle Scout. All right. So really quickly then. So from the 25th to 27th, they head towards Vizhe. The next day, one of the members, Yuri Yudin, his name is Yuri Yudin, was forced to go. I know, I love that name. Yuri Yudin was forced to go back because of illness. Now, I just want to inject here really quick. Apparently, he had not like what's that called when your muscles ache? Not like tendonitis, but like I forget what it's specifically called. But your joints ache really bad. Again, kind of
vitrification.
Yeah,
fibromyalgia.
Yeah, we're gonna say yes. He had something that when in the cold, it was aggravated. So again, I'm like, why are you in the cold? It's like this weird thing. But anyways, this proved to be life-saving because he is the only survivor of the expedition, as we're going to get into quickly here. So Yuri Yudin turns back. It is important to mention though, and I also have, so basically how we're doing this is we have this great document, which is extremely detailed. And then I also found a document from Russia itself, which was hard to find. It took forever. Dude, it would not let me download it. It was like, it's not available in your region. Like I had to go to like a black market website. Yeah. Like I downloaded it. I paid money for it, but let me just say, it was hard to get a hold of. I'm not going to lie. So some of that speculation is from their point of view from Russia, which I did write down a lot of notes on for myself to interject into the said story that we're giving here. So what is interesting is when you go on this site, by the way, and let me send this over to you right now, Joe and Ben. Do you guys want me to send it to your phones? Can I send it to the group that we have for the Facebook group that we were messaging in?
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Is it in Russian?
Nope. This is all going to be in English. So I'll send this over to you right now. Because as we get going along, and Mike will bring it up soon, we're going to get into the maps and some of the situations where bodies and incidents were found, so you guys will be able to follow with us there. And if you wouldn't mind, Ben, I believe you guys do show notes. It'd be awesome if you could throw this in the show notes, so people, if they wanted, could, follow along that way. If they so feel want to. So really quick.
I can't see it on the screen. Okay, I clicked on it.
No worries, right. No worries. Oh, you couldn't see it? Oh, okay.
We clicked on something else.
It was
You pulled up your porn, your man. Was it the masturbation propulsion? Is that what you pulled up for To the Farts Academy?
Okay, so this is the one that you paid for, right?
No, this actually was the link that Krista sent me. So
the really good link. Okay.
Yes, this link goes through so much information, it's ridiculous. The other one I have show notes for is an actual episode, which if I have the link to that episode, I can send that over to you too. And then that way you can link it if you want it as well, because that's a documentary. It's about an hour and a half long.
That would be cool.
So now what is interesting right here, the only thing I want to jump in and say is that when Yuri Yudin was forced to turn back of illness, this is when they're at this last place, this Vizha, which is there was the Micah, what were the people called out there? The Mensai, I think, or something like that. Is that what the locals were called?
I don't know exactly how they would pronounce it.
They were like a local tribe that lived in the area on like the outskirts, and nobody messed with them, right?
Yep. So now here's where it gets weird. When you read, and I read the diaries last night, actually. I woke up at like 12:30 for whatever reason. I just started reading these diaries on this website, and I was up to like 6 a.m. this morning. So you can read through all the diaries if you want. Like it.
Okay, hold up. Don't let them fool you. That's like an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, it's beyond at that time. That's fair. But reading through it, I had heard others say that there was where the one lady, I forget her name, is it Lidmilla, Micah, or Zinjeld? I can't remember which one had a really detailed diary. She pretty much documented prior to the trip and even through every single day. And they also had a group journal, which everybody from the expedition wrote in at different times. So in that original one, we always heard that when Yuri Yudin left, basically there was no good reason besides his muscles hurting. But in the Russian documentary, it specifically said that a fight took place, a heated argument at that particular outpost, or that particular, when I say outpost, it's like 4 buildings. Like, it's just 4 buildings that apparently the tribesmen would trade at sometimes with the guys from Russia. So anyways, apparently they got marked down as getting into a massive argument. But what Yuri Yudin originally said was that the tribesmen were warning them not to go. They were inquiring as to where they were going, and they told them about the path, and they were like, dude, you do not want to go there. And that's where at the time it was labeled, the particular pass they were trying to get to roughly or loosely translates to Mountain of the Dead, or do not go there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And they were basically telling them, this, roughly saying Mountain of the Dead, you don't want to go there, kind of deal. So miraculously, the next morning, Yuri Yudin is like, oh, my knees, I do not know how I carry on. I do not.
He's the only smart one.
Like, he was probably, yeah.
Like,
maybe guys, do we go home or do we? I don't know. So anyways, he goes back, and he had a camera, which we'll get into some of this information too along the way, that he left with them. And most of the hikers had cameras. The official report that came out said there was only 4 cameras, but we're going to get into some of that later on as well. So anyways, Yuri Yudin turns back, and I think it was, I keep killing her name, Micah. Do you remember how her name was pronounced? Was it Lidmilla?
Lidmilla.
Lidmilla. I apologize to any family member who knows her that might be listening. I apologize. But she was specifically kind of bummed about him turning back. But anyways, they pressed on, but she also seemed kind of pissed because she was like, oh, he turns back, and so he had to divide what his supplies were to everybody else, so now everybody had to carry more crap with them. They were like, oh, dang it, you didn't know we like more crap to have to carry here. So anyways, yeah. So anyways, the hike started out fairly late on February 1st and only traveled 4 kilometers, or roughly 2.5 miles that day. It did state too that the weather from the original document that I found from the Russian point of view, like, it stated how the weather was good, all kinds of information. Again, I'm already going into way too many details about this. So they had great weather behind them, and we're going to get into some of the pictures here in a minute too. You guys will show you this. I think if you want to click on the link yourself, actually right now, you can look at, Mike, is it under camera at the top there for them? Would that be where the link would be? And it will show when you click camera or photos, I can't remember how it's listed, you can look at a listing of each hiker's name, and it'll have a certain amount of numbers for the amount of photos from that camera. And if you go to the first one, it'll show a bunch of pictures of like them even prior to the trip, just hanging out. You can see from their faces in the group, like they're just like a group of young people having a great time. They're getting ready to go on this hike, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some of them have graduated. They're really good. There's 4 of them that are really good knit friends. So, I mean, you can kind of see from those pictures that like the spirits look good. Everything looks great, right?
Well, so are the photos that you're looking at, are they negatives?
So they actually kept these are the photos that were, and I'm going to say this right because I don't know old school photography that well. These were the photos developed. The negatives, how did it work back in the day? So the negatives were kept in this secret vault, which we're going to get into, that I have documented. The other one I had to pay for to look up from 1959 up until just recently in 2014. So the hard negatives were kept of all of these photos. So all those photos you're looking at are actual photos that have been proven to be factual.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, we gotta bring it up on here. Sorry.
That's awesome. If you can bring it up, yeah. So all these photos that you may be seeing, or if he pulls these up, are photos that have been proven to be completely real. These aren't falsified. They have the negatives to prove. They haven't been cut or anything. So Excuse me, which is important for some of the things we're going to hit on later on.
I just gave everyone my Facebook login. I'm gonna have to go back and edit that out.
You can blur that part out.
I'm gonna have to edit that out.
Okay, so real quick. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was to say, if you want to just kind of be scrolling through those photos while I'm just reading some of this, if you want, it's up to you guys.
Yeah.
So they had excess gear and food was stored on a platform in the forest called a labaz. I can't remember, Micah. I should have wrote this down what photo it is, guys. I want to say it's like photo 17, maybe a little bit farther along. You're going to see a platform. It looks like a tree stand, kind of. It's approximately 6 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
that was where they laid their extra supplies at. So when they went up the mountain, they would have these supplies to get on the way back down. Okay.
Yeah. So bears and like badgers can't get to it. Wolverines, shit.
Right. Or they refer to this also as camp base. So camp was set up around 5 p.m. on a slope. Koletsaki, I'm murdering that name. Just 16 kilometers or 10 miles from Mount Oterten. It doesn't get any better the more I read it. They had their dinner around 6 or 7 p.m., and one of the two members of the group went outside to relieve themselves, presumably Simeon Zolartov and Nikolai. I'm just going to say Nikolai. Yeah, pretty much. It's like Thebex Briganoli. I don't know. These names are. I don't do well with Russian, apparently.
I don't think anybody does. Unless they're Russians.
Yeah. Since they were found to have been better dressed than the others, then something went catastrophically wrong. Okay, so really quick, I'm going to back up because this is jumping right into the actual events. So now we're getting ready to jump into the events, but they kind of skipped over little things. So that's what's interesting about, even with this document being super awesome and detailed, is when you're reading just the basic, like, hey, what happened, the synopsis, it really skips over these first couple of days and some of the events that took place. Now, I'm going to skip over real quick with you guys because I had some specific photos I wanted to look up. Micah, do you remember the ones that had listed there? I want to say it was 10. So cameras.
You keep asking me questions that I can't read your mind.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I know that one you're specifically talking about.
Yeah, no, that one's separate. We'll get into that one in a minute. So, guys, if you're looking at, Ben, I don't know if you're still looking at them, but all the big photos. So, if we go to episode, if we go to, when you go to cameras, go to the second one, the Thebex Briganoli's camera or whatever. That guy's name. Yeah. I don't know how to enunciate that. Okay. So when you go to that, again, that very first one that we were on where it just had all those pictures, this has some of those pictures mixed in as well. And what they did is they tried to put them in, what's the word for it, Micah? Like when it's a timely manner so that they fit into the timeline of which they were taken. Yeah.
So logical.
Yeah. Now, here's what's interesting about this one is if you look at, actually, I lied to you guys. I apologize. I knew I should have wrote down which one I was talking about. Let me see. It's actually nope. Dang it.
The B.O.B.
It is. I think it is the first one. It actually is the first one, guys. I apologize too.
Is it photo 57 on the first batch of photos?
No. Let me which one that one is. Okay.
Number 1.
Because it's fucking weird, man.
Oh, are you looking at it? Is there one that?
Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. I actually found it. Okay, guys. So if you go to the very first, when you click on cameras, you go to that first one, Krivoshenko's camera film 1 and 6. If you go down, and it's weird how it has like the extra, like bigger numbers, then it goes down smaller, like 22, and then it counts down to smaller numbers. If you go to frame number 10, this is about what's that?
He's like holding a satchel over his shoulder.
Kind of. Are you on the? What numbers? What are the frames do you see around it? Because there's frame number 10, which is just like literally trees, and there's frame number 9 where it looks like a guy's like working on a ski.
Oh no! So I clicked on at the top in the navigation. I clicked on cameras.
A little bit further, it's just called frame 10.
Okay, keep going down. That's.
Frame
10.
One just called frame 10.
7, 8, 9, 10. Frame 10.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. So you see how I did that? Did you see how it had like 57 or what? Like 22, and then it goes back down. I know it's weird. So this has it in the timeline order that he was taken versus like in the other camera. It was like, oh, this was that camera was the 22nd picture in that camera or whatever, because there was 4 of them. So I don't remember specifically what day this particular picture was taken in, but some have theorized that they were just taking pictures of the landscape. But back then, obviously, cameras or photography period was not cheap. Like, you just wouldn't waste your film on nothing. So some have theorized, because these aren't even like great pictures. They're not even pictures of like, I mean, the one isn't bad. Number 11 is like kind of a picture of the mountain, but 12, 13, and 10 and 14 kind of look like nothing. Like, they're just the woods, right? So some feel or think that perhaps they were being stalked or felt that they were being followed by the Mansi tribe or something, maybe a bear, and they were trying to take a picture of it to examine later, right? Yeah. Because they're rather bland pictures compared to the other ones. You can look above where they're, hanging out, taking pictures of each other. And from here on out, if we keep sliding down, the pictures don't really get much better, which I guess we can kind of dig into these, because now we're going to dig into the events of the night. So from frame 10 on, that again shows the number 16 and 17. That's the base camp that they called it, right? That they were putting their stuff on. Yeah. And then right here, frame number 18 is Mansi markings left by local hunters. Just marking either where it was at or something of that nature, but that was like some of the local tribesmen jotted something on the tree there. Yeah. Things look pretty cool from there. And now this leads up to I want to say this is the 29th, from frame 19 through to 26, which those pictures look pretty chill. Again, everybody's just kind of hanging out. There's another Mansi tribe one, but that's the last one. So number 25, after that, they were off the beaten path. They had been on a Mansi hunting tribe path, not like a used path, but it was a path that the hunters had occasionally used, but now they were off the beaten path.
Dude, number 30 is the one I was referencing earlier. I just found it on a different part of the website or whatever. But the guy's jacket's all fucked up.
Oh, yeah. With the so he's just standing there like it looks all like ripped up, and
his hands are on his hips. Yeah. What is that?
I don't know. That's actually a really good eye, because I'm not gonna lie, I missed that. I thought it was just like a guy like posing, so I kind of skipped over that. But that is weird. Micah, do you see that? How ripped up his shirt is? Now, I know there was a photo a little ways back prior where there was one where he looked like he had tipped over, but that wouldn't cause that kind of damage. That shirt the coat looks like shredded.
Like he was attacked.
For real, that thing looks shredded down.
But he's smiling in the photo.
Well, we all know that Russians punch bears.
Yeah. Like the little Russian, 3 years old. Yeah. It's just something Glunkshi's burnt something. So maybe his coat got burnt, like it got too close to the fire.
Yeah. No, so I will say, so you're talking about these photos going through, and the hypothesis is that some of these photos, because they look a little less grandiose, a little lame, I did notice that most of the photos are looking backwards, looking back on their trail. So their skis or their footprints through the snow, they're looking behind them. So it's kind of omonous.
Yeah, it is.
Why would you take photos with ski trails in your landscape photo? Obviously, they were trying to photograph something.
Yeah,
that's what I would think.
I think the mountain.
Why would you?
It could be. It could be, right?
I don't know.
So I'm going to point out 2 photos really quick, or 3. These will be the last 3. I don't know if you have them pulled up on your screen over there, but 32 and 33. Which terrify me. This is the last day of the expedition. So this would be the first, because the second is when everything goes down. So this right here, to me, is terrifying. Between that one, I got to go back out to see which photo that is. So 32nd photo and the 33rd photo. The 32nd one is scary. You can literally see in that picture, you can barely see the guy behind him. So like the third guy back, you can just see his ski pole. That's like it. Yeah. Like that's how the weather had changed on him exponentially. It was no longer friendly weather, right? And then right here on the 33rd one, it looks like they're taking a picture of what they're moving into, and it looks like a whiteout snowstorm. That to me is terrifying. Now, what is interesting is, so those 2 photos right there are, so number 34 is technically the very last photo. So 34 is the very last photo. Which
is a really weird looking photo.
It's and there's a lot of speculation on this one. And for I don't know if you have it up so that the viewers that may be on YouTube can see it. And if they can't, what you're looking at basically is just honestly looks like it could be all left up to your interpretation because it kind of looks like a blurred photo, a badly blurred photo with like a little circular dot in the middle, like an octagon. Yeah. And then some like weird blurring off to the top left corner here. And I don't know what to even make of like the scratchy looking part there that kind of looks like paved in. I don't even know what that is, but
looks like an eyeball, like something like looked at it and like squeezed the trigger.
That's interesting,
right? Yeah, and just caught an eyeball or something. Like
that is interesting.
You know, like maybe it attacked them and then it like picked up this odd thing and just was looking at it, maybe trying to eat it, and then like the the picture and it just caught a picture of his eyeball, dude. It does.
I do think this. We'll have to look it up too when we get into like all the theories, but I think this camera might have been one of the damaged cameras too. So that is interesting that you having that idea.
The claim to add to that, the claim is that it was a technological shot made in the photo lab before the film was taken out of the camera. So their story is that this picture was taken while they were developing the film.
Mm-hmm. That was in the official report, but what's interesting about we're going to get into the other document stated that in the negatives this was the last one in the sequential order of how they were taken. So someone somewhere is lying, right? Or there's been some misinterpretation of what actually happened. So really quick then. So 32 and 33 would be the last, so 34 is the very last one, 33, 32. Now here's the one I think is the most intriguing and has just been written off as a hiker coming back from relieving themselves in the woods. So if we go back up 2 cameras and we click on it and we go to Bigonals or Thebix, I'm not sure how you say his name. The second one down. If we go, what is it?
Yeah, that's
B.O.B.
Okay.
I was thinking, but that would be if it was French, I would think.
So
if this person is Russian, it might be
Russian.
I'm not sure.
Now, here's another fun one again, real quick, Ben. If you go to number 7 and you click on that, again, here's another photo where, well, I can't tell in that photo if that person's coming or going. It looks like they're going. So in that photo, they are taking a picture of somebody who's traveling ahead, right?
Yeah.
But it looks like this is, I want to say this was the 27th where they're at that camp right there. So 8, 9, and 10, they're just hanging out, chilling. But then number 11, if you pull up number 11, you can clearly see that someone's taking a photo of what is supposed to be the group up ahead. It says group still in the forest. So they take a picture of their group up there and you can see the ski marks where they've been skiing along, right? But then the very next photo, number 12, is him taking a picture of either just the past or what happened there, but it's not very beautiful. Unless in that moment it was beautiful. To me, this is some like really crappy footage to take, right? It's like literally some brush. There's looks like maybe a fallen tree on the right. There's not much going on, I guess is my point. Now, again, this is my take on it, but it seems weird to take these photos. Now, we keep moving along to 13. Number 13 right here, you can see that one of the guys wiped out. This is actually Thebix himself, which is interesting, and we'll get into some of this in a little while here. They noted how some of these guys, they were in their own camera shots, meaning the camera belonged to them, but they didn't even realize that their own pictures were being taken sometimes. So like the group was really sharing. And again, this is all on the site. When you go to just the camera part, it gives so much information on each one of these photos and the overall, like who took what, and it breaks that all down more than I would want to go into with you, just because it could be rather boring, but it was intriguing to read on. The 14th photo, I think it's funny that they kept taking pictures of him. As a matter of fact, it looks like there's more snow on his head at this point. I don't know why. And even in the 15th one, looks like there's less snow on his head, but he's still just laying in the snow. Now, number 16 right here. Now, here's where we got it. This is going to be the smoking gun. Okay, Ben, are you ready? Okay, so now he looks like he's getting up to clean himself up in number 16. And if we go to number 17, this is inconclusively, some hold this as being a Yeti or Bigfoot in this photo. All right. But to be fair, to shoot it down, right? If we're going to be critical about it as we can, it was stated that this was simply one of the hikers, and the thought being that it was the hiker who cleaned himself up here, right? So we can see in number 16, he's bent over. It looks like he has a coat on. He's wearing dark clothing. Okay. Now, the only thing I would say about that is you can see clearly the snow impact on the ground, his skis, and all that stuff. Yeah. Now, we go over here to 17, and from what I can see, and granted it's a little bit blurry, but they said that they think that's because this picture was taken, they didn't have autofocus back then, so this was taken in a hurry. This wasn't like someone tried to focus in on the shot. They kind of just quickly pulled the camera up and took the shot. Now, having said that, if you look, I can't see any skis. I don't see any ski poles in this thing's hands, if this is a person, and I don't see any path leading from wherever this person took this photo up to that. Personally. Now, if you guys are seeing something else, Mike, I know that you might have your own opinions on this.
I think it is interesting. As I move side to side, you could see it. You could see there's like clearly a trail.
Maybe like right
and
there.
I think that you could. Okay, I'm just being devil's advocate. I'm not.
Yeah. Go.
I think I can tell the difference between the upper half of his body is a little lighter and the bottom half.
Right.
Is a little darker.
He is kind of like in the Bigfoot.
The pose.
Yes,
he's in the pose,
right? And he's got like the thick head, right? The head looks disproportionately bigger. But if you're going back to photo 16, obviously he had a hood on, right? So now we're just formulating. Now I forgot to mention this. This is important. So that was the conclusion, and I'm glad I remembered this because it was an important one to mention. So photo 16 was taken, I want to say, and they have the exact date on here. If we go back up, it'll give us the exact date that it was taken. But I want to say it was the 29th that photo was taken where he fell over. The 17th photo is taken on the 1st of February. So it's a whole day's difference in that photo, but originally was released in the file as sequentially like happening right in order. But that photo was actually of a different day altogether. So now I guess, I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I've read so much on this stuff the last couple of days that I kind of forgot some of the stuff I read. So otherwise I wouldn't have even entertained the idea of the tracks because I forgot that didn't matter. That came from something separate. So that to me is interesting that we're an entirely day separated in these two photos. However, like you guys said, you couldn't, it's not inconclusive enough to look at that photo. It's so blurry. And the one thing I don't like you're saying, Ben, is that the bottom actually almost looks smaller than the top end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now to be devil's advocate in another fashion is if this is a person and even if they were relieving themselves, why would they go trekking off knee deep in the snow? At this point in time, the snow was getting almost, I think they said up towards 4 foot deep in certain areas. You can see this thing is sunk up to roughly its knee area. So give or take, I mean, who knows? It is what it is. It's the photo that some will feel that is a snowman or the Menk or the Yeti. And some will say it's just the guy who was photographed on the way back from the bathroom. So
he was taking shit, man.
Well, if it's a 4 foot kneecap, I mean,
that's a big kneecap.
I don't know anybody who's 4 foot as their kneecaps.
Right. So, okay. So really quickly, so those are now that photo I just showed you of the person standing there or the figure standing in the woods leaning up against the tree. That was the 4th photo from the very last taken. The last 3 being them going into the snowstorm and then whatever that glow is, whatever the glowed picture is. So those are the last 4 photographs of the last day of their trek leading up to the 2nd. So really quickly, now we're going to dig in, excuse me, to the, lost my spot here, to what actually happened far as the events of that night, which my file went away. Hang on a second. 1 second, guys.
I have to pee.
Oh, perfect. Good. So give me a chance to. This file is so big. There's so much information on here that's like really easy. Okay, here, I got it back. Okay. I was gonna say it's really easy to just like lose your spot on what happened. So now, Ben, Joe, you had heard of this event leading up to this. So what was your take from this, I guess, when you had heard this event mentioned? I mean, we're gonna get into a lot of different possibilities here tonight, obviously, but what was your take from this normally happening? I mean, obviously, this wasn't a Yeti or Bigfoot expedition. This was simply for academia. Some of them were going to get credit for this for their graduation. So this event wasn't necessarily a Yeti hunt.
Right.
I mean, it's unique. I think that as we're going to get into for the listeners as soon as Ben gets back here, how gruesome things end up taking. And beyond those pictures that we showed that may be somewhat mysterious, the actual events we get into like next here are baffling.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the pictures are awesome because it kind of fills in gaps, like with the story. You can kind of follow it along. Mm-hmm. It's almost like it's almost kind of like a horror movie. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, it's just a bunch of
like the
people
classic
hanging out, having a good time. You know, there's pictures, and then all of a sudden, man, things just change really fast. You know, so
yeah,
dude, I mean, to me the story sounds plausible. It's once you get to the events that lead up to what happened to them, that's when things get squirrely. That and the fact that you have this tribe that's lived there for hundreds of years.
Dude, they said
5,000 years, and they say, well, we call this don't go up their mountain,
dead mountain.
Dead mountain. That's, to me, that's one of the most interesting parts of the story, is that you have this group of people who've lived there forever, and they have witnessed stuff, and it's part of their culture that you don't go there because something's up there, right? And you hear these stories from all over the world. There's always these certain areas that you just don't go, whether it be Skinwalker Ranch or out in the middle of the woods in like Montana or something, or like this story. They're all over the world, and yet people still go, and then they go missing, and then people are like, well, what happened? Like, maybe maybe it was a wolf, or maybe it was a bear or something. And it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe, but these people were obviously scared of something. They know what a bear looks like. They know what a wolf looks like. They know what all this stuff looks like. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. And that's where we'll quickly, I'll read it because I've already taken too much of your guys' time and our listeners' time kind of laying out some of the foundation. But I'll quickly read the next events, which are going to happen rapidly. And then we'll like you're saying, they're going to have even more to process with what you just said. So it has been agreed beforehand that, so we left off with saying that something catastrophically went wrong. Okay, so now really quickly on that too, they set up camp. Micah, do you want to pull up? You want to direct them to the map? I'm going to stay here. Do you want to direct them to the proper map they can look at? If you go to the spot where there's maps, there's some great, and for the listener too, if you want to click on these or pause and look at what we're talking about, because we're going to use these references where the bodies are located and the events that are going to take place this evening. So it was weird how they left the wooded area and they pushed out into the open, right on the slope of the mountain, the pass itself. I think they were roughly about, I think it was 2 miles or 1.5 miles out from the pass itself. But they ended up on like a 30-degree slope in the middle of, Micah, what was it? Was it about a 1/2 mile or a mile from the woods? Is that about how far they went out into the open?
I don't.
Like 0.62 kilometers or something like that.
What's kilometer
in there? Darn metrics. Listen here, we do the Imperial America. So roughly though, they were, I think it was roughly 1/2 mile out from the tree line that they were just in the wide open. And then we'll read about the events that happened in them this evening. So, but those that have looked at that and tried to understand it said it doesn't really make sense because they had initially somehow got mixed up on where they were going. The leader, what was the guy's name, Micah? I'm trying to think of Igor Dyatlov. So Igor was the leader of the expedition. He made a mistake on where they were landing, and they got off course, but he didn't want to like track back into the woods where it would have been a little more safe from the environment, all kinds of stuff. He was like, screw it, we'll just camp here tonight and we'll make up the time in the morning. But it was weird that they camped out literally in the middle of this slope. But the way that they camped, and this will get important as we get talking about it, was facing the side of the tent was purposely faced towards the woods. So anyways, it has been agreed beforehand that Dyatlov would send a telegram to the sports club as soon as the group returned to Vezhe, something like that. It was expected that this would happen no later than February 12th, but Diatlip had told Yun that he expected it to be longer. So when the date passed and no message had been received, there was no immediate reaction. So and this is important to date really quick. I'm going to write this down so I don't forget it myself either. So February 12th was when they were going to be able to, they would hope they'd finish their expedition and would send a telegram back, okay? And so no immediate action when that didn't arrive. Delays a few days were common in such expeditions. Only after the relatives of the travelers demanded a rescue operation did the head of the institute send their first rescue groups consisting of volunteer students and teachers on February 20th. Again, another important date if you're a listener to kind of mark down just so that you don't, I guess, get mixed up here as we'll get into some of this later here. So February 20th is when we have our first kind of group going out for a search and rescue. February 20th. Okay, so later the Army and police forces became involved with planes, helicopters being ordered to join the rescue operation. On February 26th, the searchers found the abandoned and badly damaged tent on Kolat Sakai. I'm murdering that name. If either of you guys are looking at it on the map or anybody knows how to say that better, please jump in.
Map, by the way, if you go. You click or just hover over maps, and then go. Give me 1 second. Go down to collection of maps. The very first map on the left-hand side has like the path they were supposed to take, where they were supposed to camp, that kind of stuff, and then where.
Oh yeah.
So the abandoned and badly damaged tent on that mountain spot. This guy's name too, Mahel Sharvin, the student who found the tent, said the tent was half torn down and covered with snow. It was empty and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind. Investigators said the tent had been cut from the inside and that the skiers had fled in socks or barefoot. A chain of, so this is only going to get more weird, right? We're going to dig into all this because there's lots of process when we're talking about it. So a chain of 8 or 9 sets of footprints left by several people who were wearing socks or single shoe or barefoot could be followed and led down towards the edge of nearby woods on the opposite side of the pass, about 1.5 kilometers northeast. But after 500 meters, they were covered with snow. So, Micah or Ben and Joe, if you guys have that map pulled up, you might be kind of seeing what I'm referencing to a little bit here.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
if
just a little like icons of bodies.
Yes.
So the people that find them eventually find a decrepit or torn down tent, and then they find a bunch of bodies strewn all over the place, right? So.
Now, very interesting to mark too that the way it's worded, they're saying that the tent was badly damaged and that it was cut. But then when they said that they followed these footprints, or the way that the investigators looked at it, they said that there didn't seem to be. So you know how like when a human runs, we have the spread, right? We run longer and we would spread out the snow. Would just, how what's the word I'm looking for? That the way it would displace it, they could tell if you were running or walking. They said that these footprints that went in a single file were in a very orderly fashion. So even though it looked like all hell broke loose in the tent, outside of the tent, it seems to be this very like walk in a straight line to the middle of freaking nowhere, but they went towards the tree line. At the forest edge under a large old cedar, the search party found the remains of a fire. Now, again, I probably should stop interrupting myself, but like that implies that you had long enough to stop and build that you reached the woods under this tree and you were able to start a fire. That's puzzling to me. But anyways, really quickly, I'll get through this real quick and we're almost done. So after they found the remains of a fire, along with the first 2 bodies, those of Yuri Krivoshenko and Yuri Doroshenko, shoeless and dressed only in their underwear, the branches on the trees were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that the skiers had climbed up to look for something, perhaps for the camp. Forensics tests later confirmed that traces of skin were found embedded in the bark, indicating that the pair had frantically attempted to climb the tree, snapping off branches until their hands were a mess of pulpy flesh. Isn't that crazy? Like, so you get different speculations. Some people feel that they say, well, the branches could have been broken because they broke them to make the fire. Okay, perhaps. But then why did you end up in a situation where they were frantically, I mean, if you're climbing in such a fast motion that your hands are pulpy flesh,
yeah,
granite, the cold, right? Because I forgot to mention at this point in time too.
Feel your hands, yeah.
It's roughly minus 20 degrees at this point in time, 20 to 25 degrees.
I did notice that all of those photos, none of the skiers were wearing gloves. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like they weren't even covering their ears up. I'm sitting in a basement. I got this thing on my ears, like covering me up, and they're just like, "Oh, put those little beanie on my bald spot." And
your nose and your ears would be gone, man. No nose, no ears.
So up to this point, I have a theory.
Okay. Well, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to hit on a theory?
Let me hit this theory real quick. Let me tell you. Let me see what you guys think.
Bestow some knowledge.
What I think Igor ripped a massive fart. The zipper on the tent got stuck, and they tried to stay as long as possible. They couldn't. So Yuri grabs a knife. He rips open the tent, and they're like, "We gotta get the fuck out of here!" Right? And
smells like popcorn
and
turds.
And the one guy was like, "Well, shit, let me get my boots on." And he was just like, "It's so bad." So he left one boot off, and they single filely went down the mountain to get away from the fart because heat rises. Right.
That's true.
And so
they were looking for the pine trees because pine fresh scent.
It smells good, and they could make a fire. And that's as far as I've gotten in my theory so far, because that's where we've gotten in the story. But I think I'm on to something.
Fire. That could be why they started the fire down there, to burn off any remnants that tried to follow them.
Because they were in a ravine, the stench lingered, so they were trying to frantically get above
all the branches,
the altitude.
Dude, yeah.
I think we just blew this case open. We just blew it right open.
So did Igor.
Yeah. Well, only problem, Joe, you did say Yuri. Yuri left already, so we'd have to pick another guy.
Oh,
but other than that, no, I lied to you. There is a Yuri. There is a Yuri Kurvashenko. I lied. I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, so these guys with the mass of pulpy flesh, the medical examiner recorded that some of the corpses had liver mortis on the front. Given that such marks always form on the side of a body that has been pressed against the ground, this indicated that someone had turned them over after death. So I guess, and I'm not a medical examiner, but from my understanding is if you just had laid, like when you died, your liver, I guess, releases some sort of a toxin or something, a substance, and it would gather to one spot. But because of where it was placed on them, it was placed near the front, indicating that somebody had rolled them over. It wasn't where it would just naturally be if you just fallen or laid on your back.
Got it.
So on February, so that was the, was that the 26th? Yeah, that was the 26th that they found these two guys, which on the map, you'll notice they're right next to each other. But again, we're only getting started. So the very next day on February 27th, between the cedar and the tent, the searchers found Igor Dyatlov, 300 meters from the cedar in Zinyata, Kolma Grove, 630 meters from the cedar, and 6 days later on March 5th, they found Rustem Slobin, that's his name, 480 meters from the cedar tree. The three seemed to have died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to the tent. A medical examiner found no injuries which might have led to their deaths, and it was concluded that they had died of hypothermia. Slobin had a small crack in his skull. I love that they state that, though. They're like, oh, hypothermia. Slobin had crack in skull, sure. But apparently, yeah, I guess what they also said too, that they couldn't rule out that if he had passed out from, what do you call that? Like if you passed out, right, then you could have fallen down and hit your head, but you still would have died of hypothermia. Yeah. So, but it was not a fatal wound, they said. A legal inquest started immediately, and after finding the first 5 bodies, searching for the remaining 4 travelers took more than 2 months. So literally, for 2 months, they only had the answers of the first, what do we say, basically the first 5 that they found, right? So all they had to go on for a little bit was that. There was speculation of those other 4 killing them and like, peace. The Mansi were also speculated highly because they were considered an aggressive kind of group, which ended up being totally false though, because when I did some of this other research from the Russian point of view, they stated that Mansi actually helped in the search events and in the search party when they found the extra 4. So, and what gets even more crazy about this was one lady who I'm going to hit on because she has a pretty crazy story said that the Mansi were interrogated by the KGB, showed up and tortured them to try and get information. Like they treated these people bad to figure out what went down. So that I think is interesting to note that the KGB went to that extent of like whatever you were allowed to do back then in the 50s. I mean, it was the USSR. I don't know. I mean, who knows what they were doing?
Anything, dude.
Yeah. But to me, it's very unlikely and highly unlikely that the Mansi did this. And we'll keep going on that in a couple minutes. But okay, so that's what happened at that point in time. And then 2 months later, so 2 months later, they were finally found on May 5th, 5 under 4. Wait. They were finally found on May 5th under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters further into the woods from the cedar tree. So as you guys can see on your map, again, it shows where that creek runs along the bottom there, just past the tree, which I'm gonna finish up reading on what exactly went out with these guys because it's horrific. And then I have, like I said, some things that boggle me about how this whole situation is laid out with the bodies. These 4 were better dressed than the others. And there were signs that those who had died first had apparently relinquished their clothes to the others. I like how they use the word relinquished, like they took the fucking clothes. I like how he was like dying, like, here, take us. You can my underwear. Just put it on your head. You can open here. You can breathe through the nostrils with a crotch. Oh my God. 9 days of
I know what you ate, and I smell it. I have not. No.
So Zolotov was wearing Dubin's. So this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets interesting too, and it only briefly covers this here, but it doesn't even give the exact outline and how much of this clothing was switched between each other when people were wearing other people's clothing. Okay, but it does a little bit. So it says. Relinquished to the other. So Zolotov was wearing Dubin's fox fur coat and hat, while Dubin's foot was wrapped in a piece of Krushenko's wool pants. If we recall, Krushenko was the one that was by the cedar tree. An examination of the 4 bodies found in May changed the course of the whole investigation. The 3 of them had fatal injuries. The body of Thebix Briganol had major skull damage, and both Dubini, I'm not sure how to say her name, and Zolotarvi had major chest fractures. According to Dr. Boris Vrozodeny, the force required to cause such damage would have been extremely high. He compared it to the force of a car crash. Now, here's where it gets also weird about this, right? Notably, the bodies had no external wounds, as if they were crippled by a high level of pressure. So even though they had this massive internal damage, there was no visible wounds on the outside. Dubini was found to be missing her tongue, and the group, so she was found to be missing her tongue. The group clearly realized their threats, did everything they could to preserve themselves. They had managed to dig out a den in the snow and lay it down with branches in an effort to keep themselves warm. And there's another picture that shows that. If you go into the file cases, we can go to those in a couple minutes. But if you go under, Mike, is it under file? I think top left. Yeah, case files, and there should be case file photos.
Yeah, I'll look at it right now.
Okay, because I'm almost done reading this, and then we can actually read in. We can even go and I'll read into the death part, the immense amount of damage, because this only briefly gives it. So they did dig this out, right? They tried to somehow, this shows that time had passed, right? If you had enough time to like build a fire, you had enough time to dig a hole out and start putting trees up. Like this implies that a lot of time is passing.
Yeah.
In my mind. So anyways, to preserve themselves, they had managed to dig out a den in the snow, lay it down with branches in an effort to keep themselves warm. But the things were about to get even more bizarre. Bodies were actually found a few feet from their improvised shelter in the deep part of the ravine on the area of only 4 meters, only 4 M2s. I'm not sure. I think it is like a typo there. Anyways, some of the hikers' clothing, 2 sweaters, and pants were found to be radioactive. Also, some of the clothes taken from the bodies underneath the cedar tree were placed on the cedar branches, but apparently they were not used. And they were also found to be radioactive. So, yeah, dude, this is where it gets really weird. So if you want to pull up, I'll go over to the, I know, right? This is like where this is like every time you think you hear part of the case, you're like, oh, I'm formulating an idea. Oh, I think I got it. And then there's like another part comes out and you're like, what the French toast? What happened? So if exactly. So if you guys go to
you have kids living at your house.
I haven't even looked over at him. What's happening? Oh, is he gone?
No, you just say French toast. It's like
he's totally gone too, though. I just noticed that. I've been reading. Micah must be the girls must have come running up on him.
We're gonna find him in the snow somewhere now.
Right?
He's gonna be wearing my boxers, man.
If you guys go to I want to say I believe, just so that while I'm naming a little more on the depth, because it goes a little more detailed on what actually happened to these people.
Yeah.
If you go to,
do you want to? Is that the end of the storyline?
That is basically that is basically the end of the story. As far as that part of it, we can give some of our conclusion and thoughts.
I want to wrap it.
Go for it.
Wrap it up completely, but just thus far, because it's like
that's a lot to process.
It's a lot to process, and I want to speculate and like come up with our own theories.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we move further. Okay, Joe says that there was a massive fart. And that's what caused the whole thing.
Yes.
And so, okay, now knowing, okay, before you said that the last bodies to be found had skull fractures, chest fractures,
radioactive.
Okay, so I'm thinking of one main theory. I'm not even thinking of Bigfoot anymore, dude. I'm thinking of they fell from a tall height.
Yep.
A tall height.
And they were fucking abducted, and they were, a lot of abductees or experiencers that have like physical body marks from this light that they've experienced have remnants of radiation, and they have like bubbling on their skin, and that kind of sounds familiar. It didn't sound like that's what they experienced, but I mean, if there's low levels of radiation, we kind of know from hearing other people's story that these vehicles often emit these radiation wavelengths, not only when they're in the area, but they leave remnants in the grass or the trees or the soil for soil samples, things like that. That's what I'm thinking, man, is they got abducted by aliens. It wasn't Bigfoot at all. It was just
and aliens. Also, if you were to be in a craft and they kicked your ass out, right? And you fell like on a tree, maybe their hands were straight to a pulp, not from climbing up, but because they fell through or were trying to grab hold of something, and it ripped their hands apart as they're falling through this tree.
And
that's
so
true.
Also, so many stories that we've heard that people that have been abducted and placed back to where they, like the point of abduction, a lot of people are switched around. Say people were abducted in a car. People
where they got it mixed up.
End up in different spots or wearing different people's clothing. So like the aliens, whoever abducted them, put the wrong pants on
on a different person. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a couple of theories working together with that, like the radiation and the clothes, mismatching clothes and all that. That kind of tells me that there's something.
And you might be onto something too, because that's where a lot of people hold to that last photo being a picture of an alien craft. That's for those that have the UFO theory. They feel that was what they were seeing. Now, really quickly, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, got it.
Oh yeah. It was like photo 34 or whatever. It was just that, like that where he thought it might be an eye or whatever. Yeah. Now, what's interesting about what you guys just mentioned is the first two that they found, Yuri Doroshenko and the other Kravashchan, or what was the other one's name? Yuri Kravashko. It is important to note with these guys. Now, if you want to follow along with some of this too, with what I'm looking at, if you go to either Death, and it has each one of them listed, so that you can read it with me. But it is important to note that with these guys, Yuri Doroshenko, mostly sturdy and tallest member of the group, the complexion of the deceased had been described as brown purple. So
there goes that bubbling the skin. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, and we can read through these if you want, and if people want, they can read through these themselves. Like I said, this is a great, to me, I don't want to like overkill it with all the information because there's so much great information on this particular file or this website that I would encourage anybody who's interested in getting a good feel for this to look it up. It goes through, and it's funny how different ones had different colors of the skin, but if you click on the death part, it shows specifically on what part of the body they were damaged and what their cause of death was, right? Now, what is interesting is the final Russian investigation answer that came out after all of this, right? And I want to read a little bit more real quick on the ones that were found, the last four, because there's some interesting things with them. So now these ones we already know had the discoloration of the skin, had radiation on their clothing, and then also this has some of the photos posted with them. So below each one, after it shows what happened to them, there are photos at the bottom, the real photos that were taken of them. Terrifying.
Crazy, dude.
So Zinnia. So the first one here, the first lady that was found with the group of three that they hypothesized were trying to maybe go back to the tent, which is weird because that's how their bodies were facing. They were facing as if they were going to go back to the tent, which makes no sense, right? Like, why did you get to this tree? Did maybe all 9 of them make it to the tree, start making a fire, and then maybe Yuri and the lady and the other guy were like, hey, we're going to try and go back for our supplies, right? Because we don't have anything. And then like something just went crazy, and that's why those 2 guys scampered up the tree, and the other 4 ran the other way, and then like those 3 did. I don't know. It just seems weird that at certain points it looks like they were all together, and then like they just ended up in these weird positions and in places. But she had the skin of the face and hands were purple and red in color. So we're not only getting like the same corresponding color of like if you all died from hypothermia and you got severely frostbitten, what color is frostbite usually turn? It's like black or dark brown, purple, something of that nature, not red, right? They did say purple, but usually it's black that you get, or blue. You can get like a bluish color. So I do find it interesting that you're getting these colors. Like that one was brown, but the one I want to specifically bring up was the one that they said her tongue was missing. So, and her head was severely wrenched too. So I'll tell you, let me slide down so I can find which one she is. So they show even the little den. I'm sorry, go ahead.
All her finger joints looked like there's little spots that they were damaged as well.
Yep. You're talking about
Zenita? Yeah. Zenita.
Where is it? I don't think, actually, she's not the one. Cause of death, hypothermia by accident. Okay. Was not sexually active at the time of her death. Huh. That's not the one I'm looking for, though.
Liudmila.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Yes, here's what I'm looking for. I just didn't scroll down far enough. So right above that are her photos, and you can kind of see her laying against Dubinia. She's laying against what looks like this rock. You can't quite see it from here, and they blurred out the second photo because some of them were naked and stuff. But with that one, when she thawed out, her neck was like craned back. So like her neck was in a backwards position. She was missing both of her eyeballs. She was missing her tongue, and then most of her ribs are broken as well. 2, 3, 4, and 5 is stated in the diagram here. Now she also tested radioactive as well with the brown sweater. Now, what was interesting about this one, it says Dubina was laying in a kind of natural ledge with water pooling over it. Her mouth was open. There are claims that the tongue was ripped out or eaten or whatnot. The medical records simply Simply that the tongue is missing. So the medical examiner, Vorzrezdeny, describes missing I'm not sure what that term is, but it's a muscle. It's muscle on her face, as of the floor of the mouth. So the flooring of the mouth was so like the tongue. Because in my head, I was like, what if an animal just ate her tongue after she died, right? In my mind, that's what I initially was thinking when I heard that. I was like, it's not impossible that they died of hypothermia, and then a wild animal of some sort. No, she wasn't. She was like one of the fourth ones to go. But I'm just saying it's not impossible that something could eat out their eyes or their mouth, right? But to me,
like soft tissue is the first thing that the scavengers eat.
Yeah, that too. One second, I'm gonna switch back too, because hang on here, like burning up.
William's taking off his hat, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
He's back to American now.
Okay. God, it's like 10 degrees cooler now. That sucker will keep you warm, man. I'll tell you what. So my wife's... Whoa, what did I do to my... Okay. So what I found interesting, though, was he mentioned about the muscle mass of the mouth missing, and then it looks weird, especially given the previous bodies have been more detailed in the autopsy. So this one he kind of skimped over. There is no credible explanation for the vague statement, although it is mentioned that the stomach contained about 100 grams of dark brown mucosal mass.
Semen.
No. So here's where it gets weird. This is where it gets.
Oh my god, dude.
That's pretty bad. Ben went there. Oh my god. So of this 100 grams of dark brown mucosal mass, often, miscoded as coagulated blood. Oh, why not? Okay, that's what I knew, the term coagulated blood. But here's what's interesting about this. So this 100 grams of coagulated blood, it is used by some as an indicator that the heart was beating and the blood was flowing when the tongue was removed from the mouth. The cause of death, yeah. So that threw out my whole hypothesis and idea of a dead animal, because then this applies that blood was definitely pumping, right?
Yeah.
The cause of death is stated as hemorrhaging into the right atrium of the heart, multiple fractures and ribs, and internal bleeding. So again, anybody who wants to go on in here, guys, if they have this in the show notes, I highly encourage anybody to go through and read it. You're going to get way more information than the little choppy version I've shared with you. But it is insane how many of these. And there's another gentleman. They didn't even mention it, but he's missing his eyes as well. I forget which one it is. There's another one. Here it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh, no, I was just saying there's a few that they have high damage.
Yeah. Yep. So missing both the eyes on this one as well. Yeah. So to me, like I said, this is where it gets more into the, all right, so if we were to weigh out the ideas of, I guess what went down here. I don't really know where to, Micah's back. Okay, perfect. Micah, you're back. So I'll do it with you really quick. We just finished up going over the death far as the actual impact on their bodies. So like the tongues being ripped out, the eyes removed, how it indicates that her heart was still, pumping and blood was flowing when her tongue was ripped out, because Ben and Joe felt, and I'm right there with you guys, that multiple times when people have been abducted, they get put back in separate clothing and they get put back in, out of order, and they have the discoloration of the skin would indicate radiation burns. What was that couple in Texas, that lady and her friend and her son, where it was so hot in the vehicle when she touched it, had like the imprint from her hand? I can't remember that case.
The Cash Landrum case.
Yeah, to this day, right until she at least passed, she was suffering from extreme issues of exposure to radiation. But what I find interesting about the tent, so if you were to go into the case files themselves and you click on that where they show like what they thought happened, or you could go into theories, however you want to do it. So it's this controlled environment, KGB. They give literally, I think I counted, there are 21 theories on this right now. So like, there's no wrong answer apparently. Like, if you read through this thing, it's ridiculous the amount of things that they think it could be. Oh man,
it looked like 3 people had major issues eyeballs. There was the 2 people were actually missing them, and one was missing all of the soft tissues around their eyes, including the eyebrows, and their skull bone was exposed.
I forget about the skull bone. Good catch.
Her brow game was on point, and somebody was jealous.
They were on fleek.
Ah, dude. All right, that was a little dark. Sorry, guys. I felt a little dark saying
one last quick thing, and then we can just rip loose on all of our theories here. The first people on site that noticed the tent or discovered the tent, a lady pointed out to them, which forensics later confirmed, that the slits in the tent, I don't know if there's a spot, Micah, did you see where it says the tent? I'm trying to think of where it says case file. Yeah, if you go into search where it says the tent, it's the very first thing it'll show. And there might be some diagrams, if we slide down here, of how the tent was cut. They specifically, so here's some pictures of like the actual tent, the size of the holes in this thing at first, okay? The whole side is basically gone, right? But, so this is the case that they found it in. So they didn't think much of it, right? They weren't really looking at it. They're like, holy crap, something demolished this thing and then whatever. Now you slide down a little bit farther, and it starts showing how there were individual little slits. All these little slits were made from the inside. All of these slits were facing towards the wood line. So they were looking towards the woods, specifically cut these little slits along the tops. And if you slide down a little bit farther here, the diagram shows how they were cut near the tops all on the same side. So I find that very interesting that they were cutting what was keeping them safe and warm and protected. Like, why would you, it was like minus 25 degrees, I want to say, something like that at this point in time, for them to be cutting this tent open. And then obviously the 2 giant gashes in it, which just pretty much opened it wide open, and then they ran out. But that's what throws me off. You see that first picture of that tent, right? Like how it looks just demolished, but then it says that they walked in an orderly line. Like what? Like it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't add up necessarily. I just wanted to point that out though. That the tent was cut from the inside, and it was cut looking towards the tree line only on the one side. Right. I find that unique because then that applies to me. I feel that they're trying to get an eye to look out at something, right, without going outside.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I mean, that's just me repeating also things that others have said, but I find it unique, and I find it at least worth noting. So, yeah, I mean, that's some of this in a nutshell. Sorry. Sorry that took so long, guys.
No, I mean, you did a fantastic job. I think what we often do on our show, we kind of skip over a lot of details. So I feel like that was very valuable. So that was awesome, dude. I keep going back and forth. Is it aliens or is it Bigfoot? Because like when you forget about the tent and these little details, and you think, okay, well, it was obviously some kind of animal attack trying to get in, but then you think, oh, well, it was cut from the inside, so they were running from something. They wanted to get out. I mean, they're basically in they're like in a hot pocket, right? Like they're like all in one space, and one animal is trying to get at them. You always think like, all right, well, how the fuck am I going to get out of here?
Yeah.
And for them to like take the time to, in the diagram, it shows like a little razor blade, but how would you have like a single razor blade ready? But yeah, like I'm thinking somebody said, okay, well, it's coming from the opposite side. So we want to go towards the woods. Let's not take the time to undo all the fastenings on the opening and the exit or whatever, and just fucking go. Let's go.
Well, but the issue there is they would have been like, okay, when I cut this tent, we're all gonna walk in an orderly fashion down to this tree.
Right. Yeah, so don't get separated.
That's weird.
This was just what I just sent to you guys. Is just not saying we have to stop and talk about, but this was another theory that's put out there that the Soviet Union and the USSR was testing this thing called a parachute mine. It was like a 2-part stage rocket, and they were testing it in remote areas. So some people hypothesize that this is it. I personally think this is ridiculous as a plausible thing, because if a rocket exploded or if there was a mine that exploded, they would have had massive, in my opinion, external damage of some sort.
Yeah.
Micah, you had mentioned, though, from back in our days of watching, you guys remember? Anybody remember that show from back in the day? What was that? Crap! I'm gonna get so pissed off.
Gullah Gullah Island. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
No, close. Good guesses. thing where they would test it out, and they were scientists, and they would do these experiments, and Mythbusters. Thank you. And they had talked about the blast radius, right? Isn't there a certain radius where you're within a blast radius where it kills you?
Yeah.
I didn't hear. I didn't hear what he said.
He said Bang Bros.
Oh, Bangin' Bros. Dude, how'd you guys know about our website? Listen, that's our side hustle. Banginbros.com. Brittany and my wife, they all know about this. That's our
there's a certain radius from like an explosive where you either just get blasted to pieces, or you don't have as much external damage, but you have a lot of internal trauma from the impact, the force of the explosion.
Right.
I mean,
but that wouldn't necessarily. See, the only issue that I have with that idea, the reason I'm just wanting to share it, so I'm being honest, so that a lot of these theories are being aired out, because we've been accused lately of cherry picking things. So listen, tonight you're getting shotgun blasted with options here.
Your goddamn cherry tree. You pick whatever you want.
Yeah, man. You be George Washington. You chop that whole fucking cherry tree down, man. Wait. That doesn't make sense. Don't chop it down. Just take one at a time.
Chop it down. So that is one theory that had been thrown out there. So I just wanted to at least share that. What is interesting now? Now, do you guys want to throw out some other crazy theories really quick, Micah? Anything that makes sense before I get into some, like, I want to talk about the Russian file that I read on a little bit, and they did a specific interview with a 65-year-old tribesman who was alive at the time. She was about 5 years old. That I found unique. But Micah, do you have another theory, or Ben and Joe, do you guys want to throw something out there that you feel that supports the alien? I mean, I know that you guys are more into the aliens, but obviously I feel like this just falls in all things weird. Like, this is just weird across the board, because there's no like one answer that we can stand on that it like makes sense, I guess, because the initial report that I think the Russians gave, and I think I already mentioned this, saying that it was the official report that came out said it was a compelling natural force. That was the official report that said what was the cause of death was a compelling natural force. What is a compelling natural force? What does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Flatulence.
Okay, so I have another theory, but I'd like to hear what Micah has to say.
Go for it.
I don't know. Personally, I think like there was a theory about KGB, CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was a real thing that was going on.
They seen some stuff they shouldn't have seen. I don't know that explains so much having internal damage without having external damage. I think it's possible that there was some type of explosion that they were inside of, deadly. But I feel like for an explosion to have a blast radius enough to break ribs and cause all that kind of damage, it would have to be pretty close. It'd have to be pretty significant. And I'm sure they would have had some type of, they'd have had more external damage, I think, with an explosion that close, because it would have to be close for it to do that much damage to them. I'm going with the, I think I'm going to go with a Yeti. I think they.
Yes!
Yeah!
We did it, boys.
Dude,
Oh my God! This is
Michael.
unprecedented grounds. This is amazing.
You heard it first. You're on UFO Garage Podcast.
I was like over here trying to make more points to show how it could be a Yeti.
Okay, this is kind of bear with me for a second.
Okay.
This has a little bit to do with Looney Tunes and a little bit to do with I think maybe William, I think maybe you might have posted something about this on our page. But okay, so we'll start with the Looney Tune things. You know, whenever Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck they run into the abominable snowman, right? And the abominable snowman picks up, Daffy Duck, and he's like, I would love him and hug him and squeeze him and call him George. And he like squeezes the shit out of Daffy Duck, and then like he like pats, like scrunches his head, patting him because he's like his little pet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one part of this theory. What if this abominable snowman did something like that to these people, right? Now, onto your theory that I think you posted on our page was, what if Bigfoot or like these Yetis are like they're pets of aliens?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we get to where like this abominable snowman goes and like ravages these people, and then the ETs are like, oh shit, he's out. You know, it'd be kind of like if your dog got out, ran across the street and bit somebody in the leg, you'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did he hurt you? Yeah, he hurt me. Like I have a scar on my leg now. So it'd be kind of the same thing. This Yeti goes and destroys these people basically. Maybe not on purpose. Maybe he was just trying to be friends. But then the ETs come down and they're like, well, shit, let's take him home and see if we can fix these people. They figure out, well, we can't fix these people, so they kind of just put them back.
Dropped them
in the area that.
So it was like, what was she wearing? The underwear? Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, just throw them out.
So yeah, I mean it's kind of out there, but I mean if you believe in Looney Tunes like I do,
it's almost like your cat or your dog brings in a baby bird and you're like, oh shit, man, oh it's got like teeth marks in it, and like, oh man, I hope the mother takes it back. So you put it back out, and then you have your dog inside, and you wait a little longer, but then it starts getting hot. So you're like, fuck, I guess I gotta take this little baby bird back in, and you can't fix it.
Yeah.
And then like, well, finally, shit, I guess I gotta go outside and bury it.
Yeah.
You know.
Pretty much.
Just building on your idea.
Yeah, definitely. No, but
if we're hitting on the Yeti theory, I have, because I okay, let me state this first. I kind of want to believe, but also believing is terrifying. Like, let me just say this. All due respect to you ladies, if you're listening, the she-squatchers that came on, your opinion's your opinion. But let me just say, if this thing really exists, that's freaking terrifying. I don't know that we should be this, like, let's go search with it and be friends with it. And, like, maybe we should just leave that thing to live its life and leave it alone, in my opinion. Because if these proportions that are given, and I'm going to get into, and even have some actual supposedly real evidence to this, apparently Russia's had an institute that's been studying this since the 70s. It's a real institute that solely studies Yetis. This is a fully funded thing from the U.S. government, from the a private institution within Russia. But I'm going to have evidence, and I'm going to hop on really quick, Micah, that links both the U.S. and Russia having secret government programs at the time funded for the idea of capturing a Yeti alive. That was a fully funded program by both countries during the Cold War, right? Like, why would we even be talking? Why would we even be working? You know what I mean? Like, why would we? Yeah. Anyways, before I go to completely that.
Like the Cold War was kind of actually a cover for something. Sure. I think they made us believe that we were actually fighting each other, but we weren't. We were probably working together on something pretty crazy.
Yeah, everybody was wearing like commie killer shirts on. You know, it's like that's what you do with your friends. You know, if you ain't got a commie killer shirt on, you're not American. You know, like it's pretty bad, right? God. So really quick, from the other documentary that I pulled up that is from Russia, they interviewed a lady, a guy named Mike, who had a journalist who went along with him because he couldn't speak English, obviously. And they actually traveled the same path as the hikers and then shared the story. I'm not going to go into it because I went into way too much anyways, but I just want to hit some of the highlights. They interviewed this lady from what was that group called, Micah? The name's failing right now.
Yeah, it was like Mansi.
Yeah, Mansi. Sorry, I couldn't hear it. Sorry, I broke up for a second. So the Mansi tribe, there was this lady they interviewed, and this is what she said. This is what she was quoted saying. So her name was Albina Anyamov, was 5 when the group came through. So she actually remembers them coming through. It was the last outpost that they hit before they disappeared, like 3 days before. So when they came through, she tells of the Menk. They call it the Menk there, which is basically the idea. It's just another term for Bigfoot, right? Yeti is the general term, but then they have multiple names within Siberia and the Himalayas, like kind of like here in the United States, we have the skunk ape or the Bigfoot, so it's just another term, but Yeti is the qualification of, okay. So she says it whistles. And she also mentioned something called forest giants. So this is within their tribe. Now, by the way, their tribe has existed in this area since it was 500 AD. So they've been in this land for a very long time, right? Great. Flip that open. More than a year. Did you just say more than a year?
Yeah. That's a long time.
Dude, she's probably been there for like a year, man.
I have to like Google that shit. 55 AD.
So she specifically mentioned a whistle. When they asked her about the whistle, she said that it's not a whistle like the wind. She said it's like a demon whistle. It's like a howling demon whistle. Now, to be fair, the wind can make some terrifying sounds, right? Like we've all had a snowstorm. You ever heard a good snowstorm or good just howling of the wind? It can almost sound like it's alive itself. But here in Michigan, where it gets jumped at.
We can hear the streets pop and crackle. Yeah, they get so hot.
That's true. You guys can fry your eggs.
Yeah, my house does breakdance moves after a hot day where it resettles, and it everybody thinks their house is haunted. If your house was built in the 50s, like your house after a hot day, it's just cracks and pops.
Oh. Well, we get the same thing in the winter, Micah. It's the house. They call it resettling, right? They call the house resettle. Yeah. I mean, we kind of get that, just with cold.
What state? Heat.
Texas.
Yeah, freaking hot in Texas. I know that. You guys had your wheels melt yet? Tires?
Not yet, but you do got to change your tires more often. Yeah. If your tire tread is like a little bit low during the summertime, just expect that you're going to need to get a new tire at some point, and it'll probably pop.
That's freaking crazy, bro. That is crazy.
It was like 103 today. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad here at all.
Yeah, it was kind of nice today, actually.
It was 109 last week one day.
Yeah, it was 109 last week. So, yeah, it was nuts.
Hey, man, we probably make a barbecue just sitting it out on the damn curb, man. And put a brisket out there, fat side down. I'll tell you what, man. Fat side up, I mean.
Yeah, fat side up, dude. Fat side up. People are coming after you if you say fat side down.
I know.
It's fat side up.
I was thinking like the hot surface, if you're putting it on out of it.
Barbecue.
Okay, so really quick, and I promise I will close it out, and I just want to say something because there is actual, in my opinion, now, from what I've seen, this hasn't been proven wrong by Snopes, so this will be irrefutable evidence that the Yeti is real. We're going to get to that really quickly, though. So this lady talked about the whistling and the forest giants. Now, she specifically stated something that was interesting. She also stated that children and adults were going missing in this time frame, roughly this decade here. Both
Jeffrey
deer. God's sake.
He's the Yeti, dude.
I think that bastard was
born
yet.
He's been living for centuries.
Jeffrey Yetistein.
Oh my God.
It's just like he puts his life force into a new body every 100 years.
Yeah. Well, at least he was a human form and we killed the bastard one way or the other. I would have liked more people to go on down with him, but that's a story for another time on that specific guy. So what she mentioned, though, about besides the children and the adults going missing, specifically she mentioned children going missing, but a few adults did too. They're hunters that would go out on hunts. So they changed it to where they can go out hunting in less than groups of 3. Both deer and bear were found dead with their tongues missing. So I wrote down just like Lidmilia. So specifically their tongues. Now, really quickly, this guy named Igor Burtsev is head of the International Center of Hermenology and Academic Institute devoted to the study of Russian Yeti since the 70s on. He says he has over 5,000 eyewitnesses reports to this guy in the center. He has prints over 16 inches long. Now, when I heard 16 inches long, I'm not going to lie. I was like, well, that's not that big. Like, 16 inches is not like, I mean, it's not that big. It's true. Whatever.
I mean, like, are we talking like a handprint?
No, footprint of 16 inches. So that's really not
16 inches.
Mushroom stamp.
I guess I didn't measure my foot with a tape measure, but I'm pretty close to that. I don't think.
It's like Shaquille O'Neal's foot.
Right, because Shaquille O'Neal is a size 21. Now that's big. That's a big man. It's a 7 foot 11 inch tall man, I believe. But is it 7 foot 11? Somewhere in there.
I think
Point being, okay. Okay. Well, anyways, this guy. Yeah, maybe. So anyways, he has, now if people want to look him up, again, Igor Betsev, the head of the International Center of Hermology and Academic Institute devoted to studying the Russian Yeti, you guys can look him up. That is a real institute, not funded by the Russian government, but it's its own private institution. He estimates this Yeti to be between 7 and 9 foot tall creature, moves upwards of 45 miles an hour, has 4 foot long legs, and weighs between 500 to 800 pounds with 4-inch claws, shredding, razor-sharp teeth, and incredible strength. Now, having said all that, that's just hearsay, right? Because that's just that guy's proof, right? Where's the scientific proof, right? Because, again, no disrespect to the she-squashers we had on, but, like, at the end of the day, man, sometimes, have you noticed that, like, when you put them in a corner, you're like, hey, no offense, but, like, to me, there's actual proof. When we get talking about alien stuff, there's actual proof. There's, like, physical proof. There's even been scientific proof, right? But sometimes you put somebody in a corner with the cryptid stuff, they're like, man, it's like, and then they change the subject to this or that. And I'm like, I get it, and I'm not knocking your belief system, but like, just also let's try and like maybe talk about it, like a little bit. If you're gonna promote it, like you should talk about reasons as to why. But that's all I'm gonna say about that.
You should be able to debunk your own stuff. Yeah. And if you can't, then
exactly. Why do you believe what you believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so really quick, Micah, I'm going to send this to all of you guys, and I'll make this quick, I promise. I apologize. I thought, like, when I was putting this all together for the last couple of days, I'm like, oh, this will be like 20 minutes. I'm sorry. I thought it'd be like 20 minutes.
It's like the most informative podcast we've ever had.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
No. You guys have had some great people on.
More informative, like, facts going through like a chronological story than normally it's like, but then, dude.
All right, so really quick, I'm gonna read this really quick. This is a fun fact time, guys. This is Story Times with Bob joining you. Okay, so fun fact. Mike and this lady go to a place called they went and found this lady that was in, what's the capital of freaking Russia called?
Bangkok.
Time.
Moscow? Did you say Bangkok?
Like Titicaca.
I think it's Moscow. I'm pretty sure it's Moscow. I think.
Oh God!
But they went to this lady, specifically the deputy director, Irina Elena, and she had a file that proves the Soviet government. And this is what I was talking about, saying that they had the secret research on us, right? So she had a file that proves the Soviet government had launched a special unit in 1958. They called it the Snowman Commission. Their mission was to capture a Yeti alive, as I had previously mentioned. The Snowman Commission. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I thought he said something. I'm sorry. I just randomly was like, go ahead.
I thought he said something too.
Of elephant children running in my house.
Oh, I can't even hear them.
It's like a stampede of little people.
Yes, they make the most noise when they run ever anybody make. William,
ridiculous.
Who weighs? I won't say.
No, I weigh. What do you guys think I weigh? Then we'll have them guess right now.
I think a cool
175.
180. A cool muscular 180.
Joe, what do you don't think don't you weigh you're in the 170 range yourself? At least you got to be more than 180. Are you putting me less than you?
So, dude, okay, I used to weigh. I'm so proud of this. I used to weigh 218, right? But
okay.
Now I checked again yesterday. I'm down to 203.
Oh,
dude, shit. You're just melting it off, bro.
And he's got lightweights.
Dude, yeah. So, yeah, here in the north, they build us husky, and we've got to be prepared for the snow.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So God-given genes passed down through ancestry has given us girth, and in this girth,
Nordic genes, man.
During the winter here, we gotta beef up because it gets to be like 68. And we're like, we got like starter jackets on, like.
Nice day outside.
It's like a 93. It's like a 1993 Buffalo Bills like starter jacket. It's like 68 degrees outside.
I had that fucking jacket, dude.
Oh yeah,
it only sits down here.
Yeah,
dude. Oh my god,
it had buttons.
Oh my god, yes.
Fucking biscuit.
That is the actual temperature that Micah keeps his house at all times. Is 68 degrees. Yeah, that's what we. Yeah. That's his go-to number.
69. So.
So, anyways, wait. Were we on weight? What were we talking about, Micah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Are we going with facts, or are we going with weight?
Recently, I lost 10 pounds, but I'm down to 270.
Look at that.
Nice, son.
Here. Not
yeah, I'm pretty sure last time I weighed myself, I'm 355, somewhere in there, 355, 360, something like that. That's what I was saying a while ago. That when I got that shirt from you guys, the Dr. Scientist, it's hard when you're a big guy because they assume that if you're heavier, that you just grow in width. That there's no way that you could ever vertically grow. It's just width all the way. Everywhere I ran as a kid, I'd raise my arms for a football, and it was just belly button. Everywhere I went, I was like rocking the crop top, and it wasn't a good look. I'll tell you that.
Hot down there was
longer, aren't they?
What's that?
The Scientist shirts, they got some length to them.
Yeah, they do. What were you saying though, Mike? I'm sorry.
I was just asking if it was hot down there.
Yes, I switched that.
Like you got.
Oh, do I have the sweat? Dude, that freaking hat. Dude, my head was sweating so much. Oh my god. Okay, I got way off track. I apologize. All right.
You're down to 275 now. I can tell by your t-shirt.
Go. Oh, so much weight, guys.
But you guys are like pretty tall. My William, I've seen you like FaceTime videos getting tacos and shit, and like your head's like almost touching like the roof of the building.
Not that bad. I don't know why everybody thinks I'm so tall. I'm not that tall. There were people who there was one guy who thought I was nearly 7 foot tall. And I'm like, this is why people think that Bigfoot's 9 foot tall. Because like, I'm not tall, man. Camera angles. Okay, so really quickly, in case everybody forgot what we were talking about completely, we were talking about this secret document that had been sealed. Or I'm sorry, that had been sealed up since 1959, okay? And it had to do with the Snowman Commission. Excuse me. The Snowman Commission never released any of their findings, coincidentally enough. They were liquidated in January 1959. Coincidentally enough, that's when all the hikers died. Apparently, they were not alone. Yeah, I'm going to send this to you right now. So don't freaking laugh, but I'm going to send you this because the picture they used for this thumbnail. Look at this picture they used for the thumbnail.
Right. I just fucking smacked you, dude. My bad.
So it says that in this right here, they were okay. So apparently they were not alone. The American Embassy and Kathmandu and Embassy New Delhi talked about Indian currency. Now in that link I just sent you, if you pull it up, it has the original. They talk about it, but it also has the original document that was declassified and released. That shows actual rules for hunting and how to protect yourself from a Yeti. But in there specifically, it specifically states if you have photography, if you have evidence of a Yeti, any of these things, it will be immediately turned over to the Nepal government. You are not to keep any of that. It's all in the document there. Again, Ben, I apologize. I don't know who does the editing for you guys, but I'm sending you a ton of links. I don't know if you're actually going to put all this in the show notes.
This is going to be a long editing process. I mean, you know what? It's fine because this has been so entertaining. Like, it's be worth it.
But it even talks.
We'll release it a couple months from now.
There we go.
We're working on Jocelyn's episode.
Yeah.
No problem.
episodes ago.
Okay, so anyways, yeah. So just really quickly, I wanted to put that out there, talking about the U.S. government itself even talked about how to protect yourself. It gave it to a group expedition from the U.S. And if they were to come across anything, so there seems to be something to me. There seems to be some correlation between the Nepal government and I don't want to say a cover up of the Yeti, but any information that seems to hint at a Yeti existence is definitely kept within check for them. Yeah. So. And again, in that particular link, it lists endlessly all the information. Now, the only thing I want to show here that's worth noting is I'm going to send this to you guys.
Hey, I did want to make a quick note, though. That was from Washington Post. Fake news.
No. No. So you know why I specifically picked that one? No, I'm kind of with you on that, bro. But I specifically picked Washington News to be the middle of the ground, kind of, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But if you look that particular story up, there are multiple sources beyond even the Washington Post. So if you guys even need those for yourself, or if anybody's listening to this story wants other links besides that, I can also provide that for you. So feel free to reach out.
Plug your Facebook group real quick.
Plug it.
Oh yeah, so we're B.O.B.B, Band of Bearded Brothers. You know what's messed up, dude? We still haven't changed this, Micah. I'm pretty sure we need to change our name. Like we need to change our.
If you're talking about Buzzsprout, I changed it because it was originally set up the correct way, and I think you screwed around with it. I changed it back.
Okay. Yeah, for a while we were UFO Band of Bearded Brothers, and it made no sense at all. And we were like,
okay, you unidentified flying band of brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, really quick. Sorry, guys. I'm reading through all my endless paper notes here that I made over the last couple of days. They're scribbled down. The only thing I want to point out really quick. So if you were to look into some of this too, and you can look it up, there have been cases since 1925 on a military expedition was attacked in eastern Siberia, and in 1945, a unit of Soviet soldiers claimed they were attacked by a Yeti in a cave, which they actually claimed to kill. Now, from that one that they killed, I'm going to send this over to you as well. This one actually had evidence, and this is the smoking gun for them. I'll send it to you guys right now, that states that they did actual DNA testing on this hair. So now the DNA testing on this hair, which came from that guy, I forget his name, but that program that's been running since the 70s, Igor Burtsev, the head of the International Center of Hormonology and Academia Institute, they tested this, and this particular stuff turned out to be more closely related to a human than chimpanzees. It's less than 1% separation from a human being. So that is interesting to me. Now, this is an old study, obviously, but again, this is a study, and there were multiple, again, other links besides just this, I'm not cherry picking one link, bro. I don't know about you, Micah, but I've been getting smacked on that one a lot lately. There've been a lot of people been like, you guys are cherry picking what you want to do. Anyways, all right.
It's the same on the other side, though, dude. I mean, they cherry pick the shit they want to read and then try and counter your facts with some other bullshit. It's the same thing. Yeah.
That is true. Blah, 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 blah. I thought there was one other thing.
You were talking about the DNA, though, of this thing and how it's really closely related to humans, but then they also do DNA testing on those Nazca beings and stuff, and they also have DNA that is very close to humans.
Right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder when we talk about the DNA manipulation species that came down here. They're also close to humans. Why is it that all these weird fucking things are so close to humans? Yeah. Why is it that a 3-fingered, 3-foot tall, large-headed thing is so close to humans? Why is it that a 9-foot tall, hairy monster beast that lives in the snow so close to a human? Why are so many of these weird cryptid things so close to humans?
And that's where
strange.
If you wanted to break it out, whether you went to the alien route or you went a non-alien route, Mike and I talked about this way back when, and I don't even think we went within quite even a UFO or alien route on it. We were just talking about there being evidence showing that Cro-Magnon man and human beings existed at one point, because there's actual grave sites showing that they fought, where there's these bones showing that both had existed at the same time. So I've always wondered what that development was. We've always just assumed that caveman basically fundamentally worked its way out of the genocode, or however you want to word it. Like they just worked their way out of existence. But what if they didn't, right? Well, I think, wasn't it Gigantopithecus? I always murder this one.
Yes.
Thank you, I still can't say it, I guess.
Say it! Say it right now!
Gigantopithecus. Oh, I did it! Gigantopithecus. Okay.
Say it with the
This
chest.
was massive, dude. They were saying this thing was like could have reached upwards of 15 foot tall. Now that was.
That's me.
Yeah, that's freakishly. I mean, just and if we're putting something in the terms of, and I didn't look this up, but I'd be curious if somebody wants to look it up. So it's funny how they were talking about the tongue and the eyes being removed. So when chimpanzees attack, don't they rip out your genitals and your tongue, right? So yeah, they mess you up, bro. They don't play. They were like, "You're gonna remember tonight, boy." So I wonder, with that, and we know how, even though a chimpanzee being smaller than a human being is like 7 times the strength, because the muscle density is just unbelievable. It's like freaking, their muscles are like, they were saying it's like metal string compared to ours, right? They're freakishly strong. So if we had something that was operating within the genetic code of that strength, but the size of 7 to 9 foot tall, we're talking about something that's just that's like an apex predator beyond our smarts and our guns and blah, blah, blah. That toe-to-toe is an apex predator on this planet beyond a grizzly bear. Because the grizzly bear is kind of universally, at least in North America, agreed upon as the apex predator.
If it ate meat, if it wasn't, like a gorilla that was herbivore, But if it lives in a snowy mountain, how else you need fat and you need calories to live through. So you have to eat. I've never heard of a snowy chestnut. Or a snowy almond.
Don't they have the boars eat the what are those shrooms or the nuts the wild boars over there really like? There is a nut that they're a fan of. I don't remember what it's called. Is it just the acorn?
I like how it definitive. Acorn.
I think it's called the Buckeye.
That guy Igor, by the way, Burtsev or whatever he was called. He also stated that I just totally lost my train of thought. So we'll have to come back to that, I guess. I don't even remember what I was gonna say. Dude, I hate when that happens. I'm like blah, 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 even with notes. But okay, one last important thing that will close this out. I'm sorry, Micah. Dude, you have no idea. I was going hard on this subject for the last 2 days. I've been focused.
That's fair. And share everything you want, but
I know you got to go.
Every time you're like, well, I just this last thing. I want to share this last thing. It's like
wait.
Like
okay, so I already.
It's like Motley Crue on their goodbye tour. They just have one every year.
Swear, guys.
Over and over.
Okay. So this one right here. Okay, so Yuri Yudin was interviewed some years later, not long before his death. Actually, they virtually said on his deathbed, but he was sitting on a couch. But it was like the last week of his life, and he touched on one thing in particular that stuck out to him. A military boot cover, you would have to have been in the KGB or Soviet Union to be issued one, known as it's called the Amataga. It's AMATGA, leading most to believe that the military discovered the hikers before the search party, but could not or would not mention it due to the Snowman Commission, right? We talked about how this was under the radar thing, right? So being top secret, Mike goes to a place in Yettingberg to view a case. So really quick, Ben, just to catch you up, we're covering Yuri Yudin, the one who did survive. He did an interview in 2011 or 13, right before he passed away, literally the last week of his life. One thing that stuck out to him that he was bothered by was he said that everybody in the group had a camera, whereas the official report that was released said there was only 4 cameras, right?
Oh, shit.
And so he felt that there was photos missing. Also, one of the main cameras that was left in the tent was taken home by one of the search party members, and they developed the photos and then was forced to bring photos back in.
Bitch.
So they don't even know of all the photos And again, if we go back to that main link that we've been using all night as reference, this is all detailed in there. You can read through that. If you go into the file reports, just you and Joe have seen tonight that there's so much information on it. We could spend hours. So yeah. But so he felt that was interesting. And one of the things that he felt was like another very interesting thing to him was that a particular thing that stuck out to him, Ben, was that there was a boot cover. You would have had to been in the Soviet Union or the KGB to been issued one, and it was found at the campsite known as an Amagata, leading most to believe that the military discovered the hikers before the search party, but could not or would not mention it due to the Snowman Commission being top secret. Now, in this Russian version of their documentary, Mike gets to a place called Yettenberg to view the case file that had been sealed up since 1959. In the document, it stated that the file opened February 6th. Now, let's recall over here, February 12th was the earliest that anybody even got concerned, right? And so this is 10 days prior to the students even being reported missing. Whoa. It also had photos and diagrams of the hikers' tent. Forensics showed that the small slits were made from the inside facing the forest. This is all in that original document. They knew this even then, okay?
This is some George Floyd type shit, dude. You remember, like, Obama posted about
tweeting it? I heard about that. Yeah. This just goes to show you, and this is what kind of the point of what Micah and I was at our first or second episode, Micah. I think it was our first episode where we hit on the idea of like, listen, we just want to share some stuff. It might seem crazy, but we did the MK Ultra thing, showing that, listen, government has no problem. Doesn't matter whose government is. We're just kind of a resource, man. And if you need to be utilized to said point or reason that they want to utilize you to, then you will be, whether you want to cooperate or not, as proven through the MK Ultra stuff. But yeah, so this document right here, it showed also another thing that's really important. The first two guys on the scene that found the tent originally said that there were large tracks leading to the pass away from the tent. But you remember how they said they had the original tracks and they washed out? So the same thing with those large tracks. They said that they were not that it wasn't reported or documented because they didn't think it was any great importance, and they didn't speak about it until later in this documentary. In this file, that was also documented. There was pictures of large footprints. So it also had the photos and diagrams of the hikers. Tent forensics showed that, okay, the small slits are made from the inside, facing the forest. There was also photos of the footprints, which I just mentioned, matching the story of the first two guys on the search party's description. The description of a large track when they found the tent. But the most terrifying thing they found in the tent, which was in this original document, which has been considered speculation widely for years as just embellishment in the story, right? Which said, thing that they found in the tent written by one of the hikers, they don't know who, it simply says, "Now we know the snowman exists." And this was scribbled on a piece of paper or parchment paper. Now,
chills.
So the only part that I find a little too on the nose for me about this part is that it literally used the term, "Now we know the snowman exists," and it was called the Snowman Commission. So it almost makes me wonder if, like, were they trying to get funding for this? Like, maybe they found these guys and, like, they wrote it. Again, that's just me spitballing here. But you know what I mean? Because I feel like if you were...
Is it pronounced snowman or snowman?
Snowman. It's just snowman. It's how, at least that's how it translated to English. It might have been different in the Russian interpretation.
I like to ask people how they pronounce, like, Spider-Man, or is it Batman?
Well, if it was in Russian, there's a lot of V's and K's in the word snowman, I'm sure. It was like Snovokaminaman.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a little bit
backwards.
Okay. Sorry, I was just checking my notes because, like, I just wanted to make sure that was the only thing I was like, I knew they had one last big thing I wanted to hit on, and that was pretty much it.
That's pretty nuts. Like, if they did find giant footprints in the snow and then somebody, like, covered it up and they were like, "I'll take pictures of that."
So
I'd be curious to know if there's any artifacts in the photos themselves that may have been altered in any way to cover up. You know, white's a pretty easy color to photo manipulate, even with old negatives. Like,
they don't think that the photos themselves were altered, but what the theory is, and leading back to what Mike's maybe original theory was about the military involvement, is that if these guys showed up on the scene, because nobody even went out to search for these guys until February 20th. That's when the first official search party is formed. They don't find them until February 26th. This file was documented and dated February 10th. It was February 10th. So that's 16 days before anybody finds these guys. These guys, somebody could have been on the scene as soon as a week after it happened. And there was another thing that was pointed out. It's also in that file that originally placed, showing that there was a pickaxe that the hikers didn't have with them. There was an extra one on the scene. And also the tent, Yuri noticed this too, that the way it was put back together didn't seem right, because there was they were using the skis, are they just called sticks? What are they just called? Ski poles? Their ski poles were broken to help hold the tent up, which he said made no sense. They wouldn't have done something like that to help support the tent. So that goes to furthering, and like, did somebody like go through this thing and take some stuff out and then put it back together to try and make it look like something happened? So this only further embellishes the story of like what the French toast actually happened.
Yeah.
Again, now that doesn't mean that, I'm not saying that it doesn't mean that, it still doesn't mean that the government might have done this to them, right? Like, that doesn't mean that I don't even know how a human could have killed these people besides knocking them unconscious. Like, let's just say the military did it. Maybe they cut the tongue out. Maybe they took the eyes. Maybe they did all these things. But, like, why and to what purpose? And the document doesn't seem to really represent that. All it seems to represent is that they had a team, an expedition, who was hunting a Yeti, if said alleged Yeti, and that they noticed that this incident, maybe they were tracking the thing and they come upon the scene, and then cameras go missing. We have the extra pickaxe that wasn't listed to them. We have the military boot cover that only is from the KGB or from the Soviet Union. And then we would also have the pictures that were alleged, and then the note that had been talked about, but then was never proven until the 2014 document from them came out.
Yeah.
Micah, go for it.
I do have kind of a theory on that. So if the military was involved in it and they were there hunting a Yeti, it would probably stand to reason that they may have experimental weapon with them, which have caused the injuries. Maybe
like a blast, right? Because they needed to take the thing alive.
Or something of that sort that could have caused internal injuries without actually necessarily causing external injuries.
Yeah.
Just something to think on.
Ooh. Building off of that, Micah, check this out. Ooh. I think this is such a crazy, smart idea, but it's going to sound so dumb when I say it out loud.
I have a great idea. It's going to sound dumb, but you guys get ready. It's going to be the best idea you've
Okay, check this out. So the expedition was how long? Okay, first off, William, do you know how long the expedition from beginning to end was? Like beginning to when they found them?
From when they found them, or from the time they started their expedition?
Yeah, so when they started the expedition to when they found them.
So January 25th would have been the start of their expedition. The last time they were seen by any living human being was January 27th, I believe. So the 27th to the 26th of February was the first ones that were discovered.
Okay,
so that's roughly that's pushing a month.
Okay. Yeah. So
that's a month long.
Do we know what the reason for the expedition was?
It was simply for, and it goes into all this too as well. I didn't read on all that, but it had to do with academic achievements. So it would help some of them graduate. The one was going to achieve the master guide, whatever, and they could teach other people. And then, but they were collecting quartz, like Yuri Yudin, who ended up leaving. He took some quartz with him and stuff. So it was a academic / just, what's that called when you're just doing it for the fun of it. It was their passion to do this kind of stuff.
All right, so what if this was a secret CIA type expedition where they posed it as a academic research expedition, but their true purpose was to find and track a Yeti that had been seen in the area, so they knew where to go, and that's why there's so many like weird turns and twists and turns of like where they ended up and like weird decisions that they made. So they get to this tent area, right? And they build this tent, but they build the tent over a Yeti that they've captured. So they actually captured a Yeti, and the Yeti broke out of the tent, and that's what it was. It was this his razor sharp claws that got out, or his razor sharp teeth, as you mentioned. He was the one that got out of the tent after being awoken from some kind of sedation that they, attacked him with or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they captured the Yeti. They put him in the fucking tent, and they were like, I'm not staying in the tent with that dude. I'm going to go build a fire by this tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how they peacefully left.
And then the Yeti's thinking like home is towards the forest. I'm going to go that way. But then they start chasing after this guy. And then he turns around and says, you know what? Fuck y'all, dude. And then he comes back and just goes to town on all these people. Meanwhile, these other dudes are still at the tree while half of the group is trying to capture him again halfway up the ridge, right? But they're at the trees and they're thinking, oh, fuck. The Hulk is out. So they start climbing the tree. Their arms and hands are so frostbitten from not wanting to sleep in the tent that they start to climb this tree, and then that's where all the blood and all the the guts and stuff comes from, and finally the Yeti gets to him. He's like, shouldn't have shot me in the ass with that damn dart, dude. Yeah, that's what happened.
It's pretty interesting.
I'm drawing a blank on this right now, but there was one specific hiker, and I can't seem to find him right now, but I know this for a fact. There was one who had strong ties, and one of the ladies did too, where they were massive supporters of communism, and the one had very specific ties to the KGB. So there was a theory on this that the KGB was infiltrated already in this group, part of this study, and that there were some, like you're saying, CIA agents. They thought that some of the students might have been CIA, or there's the explanation that maybe the CIA was there as well. Yeah. Posing as KGB, and I forgot some stuff there.
There is one thing that I think that hadn't really come up, was that there was the radiation involved.
That's another part that comes back in.
There's a huge theory on the whole KGB CIA thing, because I think it was jackets, or was it their actual bodies?
It was the clothing, but the bodies were disfigured in coloration, in different colors, not all the same color. They all had different color discoloration, I should say.
So what about this idea of the weapon, right? The non-lethal weapon. What if it got damaged and they used it on the Yeti initially, but he woke up from this whatever and then used that weapon on them? I don't know. I'm gonna keep going with that theory.
It's like the Yeti messed them up. So you guys, you know what's funny out of all the theories that we listed tonight, which, again, there's no right or wrong answer on really any of this, because unfortunately this is one of probably, if not, I might throw it up in the top 5 mysteries of all time in human history. There's some great ones.
OJ.
What's that?
Orange juice. Right behind O.J. Simpson.
OJ. Yeah, that's a real mystery right there, that dude.
Don't fit.
So,
quit.
Do you guys know what the most widely accepted theory out there is on this? What caused this right now?
All right, tell us.
What is it?
Infrasound. Apparently, infrasound is caused as part of a technical theory. There have been suggestions that an infrasound might have been responsible for sudden unpleasant feelings among the hikers. New research into the raw weather phenomenon has suggested that a perfect storm could have struck the campers at night. Long story short, go on there and look it up. It's right on these theories. You can look at infrasound. But they believe that the weather perfectly wrapped around the mountain in this vortex version to mess with them in an infrasound wave manner that caused them to go mad and basically think that they were seeing this thing or whatever was going on, and then
they were just gassing us right now.
No.
Swamp gassing.
Yeah, we all know.
That's really interesting.
It's crazy. It's a real thing.
With knowing Eric Mitchell, I mean, our past conversations, I mean, there's something to the way the brain works with certain frequencies, man. I can see that. I mean, you didn't say a whole lot before I cut you off, but
no, you're fine.
I could definitely entertain that, man. I mean, you can't just cancel that out.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, because it says that in the right conditions, a flow of wind can be directed in such a way that it creates a vortex. This These vortex are created in sequences by the moving air and travel away in a fan shape. With sufficiently high winds and the correct angles, these vortices of wind could form powerful tornadoes. So, are we freaking saying snow tornadoes right now? Is that
what... dude?
Snownadoes?
Getting in the Snownado, man.
That's a good band name.
Oh my god. So Snornadoes.
Teenage Yeti and the Snownados.
This is with the
names to be cool, you know. Yeah.
With the potential.
He's got like a Letterman on.
But yeah, it does say that.
It's made out of snow.
Snow Camaro.
Snow Camaro.
Yes. He drives a Snow Camaro. Oh shit.
Oh man. But it does say that with the potential to emit large amounts of infrasound, as well as cause damage by themselves. Eric's theory supposes that the Dyatlov hikers' tent was directly downward from the peak of the mountain and far enough away that the whirling winds themselves did not strike the tent, but that they would have been close enough for the effects to be felt and heard. So infrasound vibrations in the air, which are too low for humans to hear, was first observed in the 1960s. So this is kind of hitting on your I believe it was you guys, unless I don't know what episode we are, but it should be the Eric Mitchell episode, which talked about this, right? The waves defined as anything below human hearing range of 20 hertz. The upper range is a sound of 20,000 hertz, and can be made by man-made objects as well as natural phenomenon. So it just basically goes into the whole idea that it can make someone feel anxious, scared, and unable to breathe properly. Another theory holds that the waves are linked to ghost sightings. So, to me, that just seems okay. I shouldn't say crazy, but then, okay, here's what I would say is
something you don't understand.
Yeah, well, it's something we don't understand. I mean, we kind of have the science to it, right? But it doesn't add up to the eyes missing, the tongue missing. If they went crazy and they went mad, because like if you guys are still on the Diatlip Pass link that I sent you and you go under theories, there's everything from UFOs, like we were talking about, ball lightning, the stove, gravity fluctuation, Wolverines. They believe that special forces, Mancy, shrooms, like they're just literally just like, I don't know, man, like. Oh, freaking lightning bolts. Oh, really quick, I want to send this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I apologize, first of all, for all the crap
I'm saying. You're giving me a freaking heart attack with all this work. William.
These are not links that you have to share, but here is a video. It's called, dude, this took a long time to track down, I'm not going to lie, because I had to go to Russian websites on YouTube. And I couldn't read any of it because it was in Russian. So it took a long time to find. So I'm at least going to share it with you guys. But it's called The Jumping Yeti from Russia. And it's the video breakdown. So this guy breaks this down, which I thought was important, right? Because we're all about, I want to give information that's been critiqued. Not that we have a scientific method of, peer review. But if we can at least get people who are breaking these videos down. What was that video you guys shared on your website not that long ago where it showed like it looked like the aliens? I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, with the planets, right? And it looked like, and he showed kind of and granted, there was still some questions even after that, but
I agree. But at least there's somebody that's like a professional videographer / FX artist that's looking at this kind of stuff.
Right.
Disillusion. He's awesome.
So that video right there is going to show a breakdown of the, and I think if you skip maybe 2 minutes in, he lets it loop. Just the original video, and he goes in and he breaks it down. It's about a 5-minute video. It's worth watching. It was a 59-second clip, but this thing moves like nothing I've ever seen, bro. Mike, I don't know if you're watching it right now yourself, but it's literally
that's some Planet of the Apes type shit that looks like a gorilla.
Real, right? That mother trucker is not moving like a Bigfoot, right? That thing moved like a giant ape.
It's got short shins to me. It's got short shins, a long femur, and it looks like he either has a backpack on or
that's
dude,
that's a huge dick. It's just swinging on the trees. I can see it. See it.
Yeah.
Bushes over. I'm jealous.
Dude, that's
cool.
That's
freaking cool,
isn't it? Okay, and there's some other videos I couldn't find either, but if people can find them, it'd be fantastic. Apparently, because you know how in Russia and over there in Europe, it seems, but especially in Russia, everybody has the dash cams.
Yes, yeah.
Apparently, there's another video similar to this one called The Jumping Yeti, but because this one's so popular in some ways, this is usually what pulls up. But that one shows a family who was with their kid, and there was like a Yeti. They were driving out in the countryside, and there's this big, like almost like wheat field or just untended to field, and they noticed this being start jumping up, and they're driving forward, and then they stop, and then this thing starts like jumping, like coming after them, and he's like putting it in reverse trying to back up. There's a lot of crazy crap when you go and watch those dash cam videos that, like, yes, it could be altered, but when you realize that they literally have a foundation that's been studying since the 70s and has 5,000 eyewitness accounts, and you have the DNA samples, and you have this particular incident as well as countless other incidents, and then you have the U.S. Embassy stating, listen, if you go there and you have any expedition that finds anything, you have to give it to the Nepal government.
Right.
You start to ask yourself, is it possible? We believe yes here at Ancient Aliens.
That was perfect.
Oh my god,
dude!
But
so there's another theory.
Wait, can I say something really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So, all right, I'm just gonna. I thought it was really funny when I thought. As the Yeti's jumping towards the car, he says, "Hey, you want to save 15%? 15% car insurance."
My name's Daryl. Or his name would be like Dyatlov. His name's Dyatlov.
Can I have a bet? I'm on one every time, man. Okay, sorry.
So
that makes sense.
You?
Oh, Micah, what was your point? I'm sorry. You had something you wanted to.
I was just gonna ask if that was a really super blurry video.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is blurry. And the guy, if you watch the video from, I know we're doing a podcast right now, so you can't really listen to it, but if he goes in and he breaks this down and he slows it down, he even clears some stuff out to show. And one of the main things he shows is, okay, now one thing I will say right off the bat, you know how this, it was very jumpy, right? So he said initially he was kind of worried, like, all right, it looks like somebody placed something that made it just jumping. But then he noticed how when it moved, it made these movements because people were saying it was just a guy in a suit and that they like blew it up. He was like, if you look at the way that the arms and the legs are moving together, he's like, it's not such a fluid motion that would be like computer generation, but it's also not an emotion that a human could really be making. Like you kind of need to go watch this video yourself. You can even look it up without probably going in the show notes. It's just called The Jumping Yeti from Russia Video Breakdown. And I weigh it out for yourself, right? I'm just throwing something up here that just says, hey, this is from Russia. They seem to have, I didn't realize how many things related to, again, I love Bigfoot and I want to get into Bigfoot in North America, but there seems to be something going on in Nepal. It was even, who was his name that was conquering the world at one point? Who's the guy that had the elephants? Crap, I should know this.
Ron Jeremy. He's got a massive elephant trunk.
It's well recorded, well documented too.
King Xerxes. King Xerxes.
Xerxes.
Was it Xerxes? But I feel like it was another one too. He was something. He was going through and fighting Alexander the Great. It was like 100-year war. Anyways.
Yeah, it's the Ottoman Empire. I know who. I think I know who you're talking about.
I can't think of his name right now. But anyways, when he went to Nepal, he inquired with the Tibetan monks to see, said, even back then, reference to something similar to a Yeti, because it was looked at as a possible weapon to be in the army. Now, I don't know anything about the whole Tibetan monks, the underground thing, but does that, like, the Himalayas are huge. Like, how much of the Himalayas are really populated by human beings? I don't know.
The Tibetan monks have, like, a head of a Yeti in a monastery that they have, like in one of their temples.
Yeah,
it's like a head or an arm or something.
Was this one of that supposed slaughter of them, where they like invited them to have? Did you hear that story? They invited them to have a meal or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what it is, but this thing has been like guarded for like hundreds of years.
And they won't let people take tests.
Yeah, there go the skull. Yeah, it's like the top of the skull. They took it's
a crown. They call it a crown.
Yeah, there it is. We're looking at it.
So if you think of like a gorilla's crown on his head, where it kind of protrudes,
and it's the Yeti. is what they're saying. We'll send you a link, dude.
We're sending you a link.
But this is, what we just sent you is like the head. It's in the Tibetan monk. It's like you can see the box, and nobody can go in there. Like you can only be invited to see it. But they've guarded this thing for like thousands of years.
That's just a yak's head. That's all. I'm just kidding. No, but that's interesting because in their army, they wore those kind of that style helmet. Now, granted, that's just because you'd wear a dome-shaped thing to cover your head, but that is interesting. That
I think it's the foreskin.
It's the. Do you know what someone posed?
Hey, look at this tiny little lock that's on this box too.
Oh my god! I just seen the box. Oh my god, dude, is that glass? You put a lock on a glass box?
Glass box. That's the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
So, like, it's in there so we can break the glass.
No, with the fire.
Okay, yeah, and there's one with the hand that goes along with it. The hand and the
all these look like head. Different. These look like different things, man. I don't know. I know.
Yeah, I could see that, Ben, a little bit. It is funny how you're stating.
Thing, yeah.
You know what? Speaking of foreskin, I got to bring it up, guys. Real question. Real question on foreskin. For those of you that aren't ready, this question was posed to me today, or rather stated to me, and it kind of bothered. It didn't bother me, but it made me think. So I'm going to put it on you guys and the listeners. What are your thoughts? Could the Wolverine or Deadpool be circumcised? I'm going to say no, since they always regenerate their skin, right? You could never circumcise them.
Oh, shit.
And I blew my mind.
There's no way, man. They've got a GP.
Here's the one thing I would say about that is that they don't regenerate necessarily their skin so much as they heal.
Hey, if you're going to come in here with facts, here's the door right there.
Man, come on. God.
Fair point. He could just re-heal the way it's cut. But to be fair, his arm was cut off in the movie, and he grew an arm back. Granted, it took some time. He had the special take my hand arm, but I'm gonna say that he's turtlenecking it, bro.
I mean, I think Micah has us there. I think I agree. I align with that. I think it's less about lacerations than it is.
I'm in line with that theory, but with Deadpool, he did grow back an entire hand, so
yeah.
Yeah, but were the knuckle skin wrinkles the same? I don't know.
You know what's interesting about that last photo you sent, Ben? Sorry, I'm bringing us back to the foreskin thing here, or whatever it might be. It looks to be, if it is whatever this thing is, I'd be interested to cut a yak's head off and want to see what a skull looks like. Not me personally, but you know what I mean. And see how the skull seal or what's the word I'm looking for? Like seals, but there's a different term for this. When it forms together, what's that word called? When it seal. Mother trucker, someone help me here. What is that called? When it fuses together. So when the human skull fuses, it fuses in like 3 spots, right?
Oh yeah, the stitches.
Yeah. So like we have ours here, here, and here, but in this last picture you sent with a hand, it looks like it's just one solid fuse all the way up from top to bottom. There's no side fusing.
Suture,
that's what it was.
Suture. I'm a doctor, dude. Come at me with these freaking
doctor scientist. You will know.
Oh no!
Oh my god. Yeah, so really quickly, because I know we've taken up a ton of your guys' time, so I apologize.
The whole point. You're supposed to take up a bunch of
I guess that's true, right? I will say closing thoughts on the Diatlov Pass incident.
Let's do that.
I'm torn. I'm really torn between I have a lot of evidence. Granted, some of it I was looking up purposely, but when I see all that evidence showing that the U.S. and then those countless other incidents of Yeti sightings, and there was even another video of a Yeti sighting that I didn't send to you. It looks like literally the classic Bigfoot from Gimblison footage. I always thought that the Yeti was like this white thing, but I guess that originally came from, what was his name? Shipman was like one of the... What is his name? Eric Shipman, I think. Is that his name?
Or is it Shipman or Shipman?
British explorer. I can't remember. I can't find his name here, but it's Shiplin. He was one of the first ones to ever send out the term that got coined, the abominable snowman. Right? I'll send it right now. But so this guy, not something you have to put the show notes. Just this was another thing that he originally found. Now this one was really tiny because he showed it next to a pickaxe, and it was like 16 inches. It was tiny too. That's tiny, right? Well, we're big,
relative to it's tiny to you.
Relative to Bigfoot, dude. They were saying, okay. Did you see the Indian Army that got trolled? Did you see them report on Twitter how they found a Bigfoot footprint? Did you hear about this? Oh my god, dude. Let me send this to you. This to you. I'm just gonna send it as a joke. It's not real. It's totally been debunked because they weren't even smart enough to realize that they only put out they put the tracks right in order. So like there's no hit bones, right? It was just like footprint after footprint. But dude, they were saying they were given a track at like 32 inches long and 17 inches wide. Now that's a footprint, right?
That looks crazy.
But I'm trying to think about it. I seen a guy gave a video talking about how there's a certain height that humans can hit before we turn into something else, right? Like you can't get much taller than basically 8 foot. 8 foot is almost the cutoff, and then we form into something different. Gravity pulls us to the ground. Our density of our bones have to change to withstand the height. So when I say that these footprints are tiny, all I'm trying to say is either it's a baby Bigfoot when you're saying it's 16 inches
for a Bigfoot.
Yeah, yes. To be clear, yes, tiny for a Bigfoot, meaning it's either a baby Bigfoot or you can't claim that it weighs 500 pounds. Your foot needs to be a certain size to withstand that mass. Right. So, you know what I mean? Like, I question when there's those tiny footprints. I also question whether you like it or not, and people get upset about it. But when you find one single footprint, it's like, well, where's the next footprint?
Yeah.
The whole interdimensional conversation, which is, I'm fine with having that conversation. It's just, let's identify that when you only find one footprint, we can't come out claiming that we found Bigfoot, then we have the evidence, because you make everybody as a whole look bad. I'm not even saying I'm part of the Bigfoot community. The conversation is super intriguing to me. I love it. It's endless conversation. But like, we got to be careful, just like with the UFO stuff, to be like, the people that come out with the false claims are bothersome, right? And that's why I almost even get bothered with like the Dyatlov Pass, because you have 21 different theories going right now, from wolverines to snow tornadoes to mines being dropped by the KGB.
Turtles.
No turtles. It was the Ninja Turtles. That's where they started out in Russia.
Oh, shit. I mean, they went to China. I mean, they could easily, not that far.
I really personally think the one that bothers me the most was Igor, and we didn't even go into the death photos, but if you go in there, anybody wants to go and look him up, but he's like in a protective manner holding onto a tree. So he's holding onto a tree, and he's like holding his head to protect it. That implies to me more than just, okay, one of the photos, somebody's frozen like this. I forget the name of the person, but they're frozen in a manner where their hands are like this. So that implies like you're actually cold, right? And what is that called when people get super cold and they start taking their clothing off?
Chilly. Oh, hypothermia, because they think they're too hot, so they start taking
hypothesis. I don't remember the term. I'm not.
Hypothermia. Hypothermia is when you think your body's too hot.
So they start taking their clothes off.
Yeah,
it's basically hypothermia. Yeah. So
I just thought of something. I'm sorry, but
for it.
I don't know why I just thought of this, and this has like no paranormal whatever. But is an avalanche completely ruled out?
No. That
would explain some of the pressure and maybe rocks. Maybe
You know what's funny about this? Before we started, I was gonna have Micah. I was like, Micah, pick 2 or 3 of the theories you want to place, and I didn't expect the Yeti, so I was like, pick the Avalanche. I feel like that's more up your. But no, if you go and click on the Avalanche one, there's they give a diagram showing how that. Again, it's like every one of these diagrams in our theories have parts that fit, right? It's like, I watch it, and then I'm like, it kind of makes sense. But then you get into where's the radiation coming into play?
Right.
Where is, the tongue and the eyes going missing, which we said, okay, maybe small animals and creatures, or they just simply froze out. Like, I don't know if that could happen.
Yeah.
But to me, that doesn't explain the stuff like the cutting of the tents, unless, okay, maybe what if multiple of these theories happened to them at once? Like a freaking avalanche hit them and they had to cut their way out of a tent. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, then that's why they wouldn't have been able to take any of their clothing, because it's a freaking avalanche right now, so we got to hightail it. And then like they're making the snow. or the fire, and then like 3 of them are like, all right, it's not an avalanche, we're gonna go back, and then maybe that's when the UFOs or the Yeti hits. I mean, I don't know. I'm really like I'm like 75% Yeti or some sort of creature took them out, or 25% alien, because there are classic UFO sighting signs here too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible to say they cut those things in the tent to see out, and then that last picture might have been them poking the camera through to take a picture.
I think that was a big ass eye, dude. I think I'm with you on the eye thing, man. It looks a lot like a dark ass alien eye, bro.
But then this doesn't imply. This still says that the Yeti isn't completely out of the picture, because what if it was a mixture of the UFO and the Yeti? Because the lady talking about how they had the deer and the bear, and I didn't even get into it, but that guy that studies over there in Russia talked about they've been finding bears that have literally ripped in half. So, yeah, and it would only eat stuff on the inside. It said it likes the soft tissue. It would eat the internal organs. It would snap deer's neck, but then only eat the inside. So
I just want some honey.
Winnie the Pooh.
Fucking bear's half.
Oh my God, that got dark. Wow, guys, we went dark there for a second. We went.
Christopher.
I want to rip your insides.
But I mean, it's easy enough for us.
It's so warm. And I rub it on the bear's skin.
Well, now that's the other thing. The only blood found, granted, we're talking 4 months. I'm sorry, 2 months for the last 5 that were found. 4 or 5 that were found. 5. The last 4 that were found. We're talking 2 months that took place. But on the first 3, the last 3 were found, so like a week later, the 3 that they think we're going back to tent, only the one lady had blood droplets around her on the ground. None of the other ones had, besides their hands being jacked up and stuff, none of them had like massive amounts of blood laying around them. They did have like injuries in their hand that indicated a fight. You had the fractured skull, but not enough to kill him. They were just marked off as hypothermia deaths. But yet they still said on the official report that, listen, this is not, this was what did he say? The what force? What was it? The undeniable natural force or something like that? What did he say it was? What did I say? What? I don't remember what I said. Something natural force of unexplainable. Oop. There it goes. Oh, yeah, a compelling natural force. I don't know. The word compelling's bothering me. I feel like the translation's off there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a I mean, because what does compelling mean? Compelling means it's like you're
I mean, if something compels you to do something, it's kind of like it's forcing you. It's not really an option. So I don't know.
That's fair enough. That's a good definition of it. All I know is that, like I said, for myself, I'm gonna go 80% Yeti or unknown being, or I should say being creature, and I think the last 20% is chalked up to maybe some just really brutal, vicious alien encounter of some sort where they were just dropped. I'm drawing a blank on this. There was a story of a hunter that was like he worked in the oil field, and somebody called off late, so he went on an elk hunt. He got abducted, right? Gets taken up to this planet. He's talking about how he like got shrunk, and like caribou and elk and everything went in this freaking ship with him. And he went to this place where he thought it was going to be like breeding, and he thought that's why they turned him down, is because he had a vasectomy. And anyways, when they're putting him back, they literally, he noticed where he'd parked his truck. His truck was now in the middle of a swamp off of a 15-foot drop in a ravine. Like, it was in the middle of nowhere, and the alien just dropped him was like, well, peace, and dropped him like 15 foot. Like, he fell down a cliff, got busted up. He had a concussion, didn't know who he was. But point being, that whole idea of aliens just being like, well, we couldn't use you, peace, and just like,
snap.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but aliens don't like commies.
He was like messing commies up for us.
Yeah. Because we had the treaty with Truman. And the aliens made the treaty, and then they were like, well, let's go get some commies.
That's not impossible. Mike, are you still sticking with out of all the evidence? Are you're leaning to the Yeti thing here too? You feel like something, at least an animal of some sort that we don't understand? Because it wasn't a bear, there was no prints, and a bear wouldn't have. Yes, a bear will just kill to kill, right? But a bear would have left clear evidence. There would have been prints, massive claw marks. You're not gonna have detailed. And that is the only one issue I did have with the Bigfoot Yeti idea. Is like, how big would a Bigfoot's hand be? Could it grab that tongue properly enough? Now, I did say her jaw was jacked up, and the bottom flesh was ripped out as well, so something with great force removed this tongue. But I don't know how big a Bigfoot's fingers are supposedly, but I would be curious to see if a Bigfoot's fingers are even, you know what I mean, like good enough to get into your tongue. Like, give me your tongue.
Curious to see a Bigfoot's hand, you know.
Yeah, why did we not get that? We get Bigfoot foot, right? The Chiefs watchers did say that they were. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would lead to believe that if we don't ever have handprints, that they're definitely bipedal, which rules out any evidence of them walking with their hands, like this video. I mean, I get it again, like the Russia video of the ape-like creature running with his fists on the ground. You know, I don't know, maybe shit, dude. I think it's Pokemon.
Pokemon. It's a Pokemon. It's a water type Pokemon.
I like Pokemon.
What do you guys think of the people who, when we're talking about Bigfoot or Yeti? Now, Yeti, I haven't really heard as the whole term of the interdimensional thing. That seems to be a Bigfoot thing, and I kind of feel like that seems to be a more recent thing. Not saying I'm a complete, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. Mikey, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I hate to be the party pooper.
Oh yeah, you got to get up early.
Real early in the morning.
Okay.
Y'all wanna wrap it up and maybe get back together?
Need to talk or whatever. That's But
Joe's probably got to get up early too. I don't know what time you got to be up, Joe.
I work 4/10s, man, so I'm off on Friday.
I mean, that's up to you guys. If you guys want to wrap up and we set up another time, we can do that. I'm fine with talking about some other stuff, but that's complete. I don't have to work tomorrow, so that's up to you guys. If you guys want to wrap up, we can do that, or if you want to hit a few more things, that's totally up to you guys.
We're nearing 3 hours. I feel like that's
holy crap. Then we need to wrap up because there's gonna be like 2 people that listen to this.
Yeah. Well, trust me, our hardcore listeners will listen to the very end. So we've got about 5 of them, so we're good.
I know we're in the 1s and 5s, if not 7s, at this point. So
it's like 8s and 9s of people. Yeah, dude. Hell yeah, man. Let's definitely do this again.
Yeah,
I mean, we literally go on for days with this kind of stuff.
Hey, and we will at the UFO Garage retreat.
Yeah.
I heard about. I kind of thought you guys were joking about that at first, but you guys were being serious, right? Like you're planning on totally doing like just renting some cabins and stuff.
I mean, COVID allows, man.
Yeah,
it's great. COVID allows.
If the election cooties go away.
Election cooties.
Absolutely. That's what it is.
Now you piqued Mike's interest.
Now he's interested.
I'm pretty sure come November 4th, COVID's no longer going to be an issue.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, you know what, guys? We were wrong. You don't have to do all this bull crap.
Yep. COVID doesn't exist. Go vote.
Yeah. Get out and vote right now.
Well, isn't it just mail-in voting at this point, right? All of it?
I guess so.
The supposed talk.
Force me to send in a mail-in ballot. I will be the first mother trucker out there protesting.
Well, they already did. They already tested out.
I will be out there.
I think they tested out in New York, and they said that there's something like 2 months removed from the voting, and they still don't have answers on it because their governor paid for the postage, so they can't tell the dates on when the postage was sent in. And so there's very unclear answers, and they said 57% of all the people in each region did not accept the results.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. Anytime I order something from the Postal Service, it either gets fucking lost or it comes in like a month later after I purchased it. So I don't trust it.
True. That is true. I don't know why I sent you guys that last thing. It was kind of a pointless thing to send, but I thought it was just hitting on what you guys were talking about. I said, because it just had to do with the vaccine thing. Like they've already started the clinical trials on that. And, some people, whether they want it or they don't, that's fine. That's totally fine. It's just people that don't think, there were people that were saying that wasn't even that possibility. They're like, dude, nobody's pushing for like even that idea. And this isn't me telling you how to think. It's just funny that like we went from 3 weeks ago, like just the mask thing, to like now they're definitely running clinical trials. Funny enough, they're running them in Russia too at some places. Someone said that's fake, but that actual report that I just sent to you shows that like they are passing. But my whole thing is like they keep saying that this thing's already mutated. So you're running vaccine for what? The original strand, or are we on to the new strand now? Like what strand are we on? And that's neither here nor there, though. People didn't come here, I guess, to hear about COVID.
Follow them damn money.
Hey, on a real note, guys, appreciate you guys having us on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, people have been fucking on me. They're like, "You're Satanist,
dude. You better not." Yeah, dude. The freaking symbolism right now is like people are freaking out about it. Like, be careful, man. I will say that too. This is just a quick note on the political stuff. Is like, even if we know these people are evil and these things are going on, like, I don't know about the whole just showing up and shooting them in the face, even if they deserve it. Like, those people could help bring in other people. So maybe we round them up and see who they can turn in. Go ahead, Mega.
Need to be any breaks given to those people?
No, God, no.
Shoot all of them in the face except for one.
Just so that you have some moral relief or something, and then I'm still going to execute you. That's just my opinion.
Hell yeah.
What was your solution? Micah, what was your wife's solution on how to deal with them? What did she say we should do? This is dark. This is real dark. Guys, this is M17 on from here on.
I mean, she more or less thinks that, you know, maybe we should take like, and I kind of agree, take like all the people, like, I don't know if you ever heard of a show called Dexter. He's a serial killer. He really only kills people. He tries to only kill people that deserve to die. Right. So you kind of take people that that have that need in them to kill other people, and they want to torture other people, and use them to just remove all these people. You know.
I'm okay with that.
But to be even farther than that, she said to see what organs they could donate and to keep them alive, and only locally use local anesthetics so they could watch their own organs being removed to be used from them. Dude, she went dark on it.
She doesn't have a good opinion of what should happen.
I don't know. I tend to. This might be even darker, but I feel like death is too. Yeah. You're getting off easy for those people that are committing these crimes.
That's what she said. I said we should line them. You know, you line them up and take a 50 cal Barrett, see how many you can knock down with one bullet.
Yeah.
She said it was too easy. It wasn't.
I said that you get a TV crew and you line them all up and you put one between their eyes. And then you make the next guy clean up the mess, tie his ass up, and do it, and just keep going until they're all gone.
This episode has got
we derailed at the end, guys.
Oh my god! This sounds like the making of the next Yeti massacre.
Oh my god!
Oh man! Well, awesome guys. Man, that was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah!
Thank you guys for coming on.
So much fun, dude.
Definitely gonna have to do it again for sure.
Yeah. If I have more of a heads up next time, I promise it won't be so choppy. I promise. I had so much information. I wanted to try and share, but it was so much that was like I felt it was pertinent, but it ends up being. I've never been the clean, concise one. Mike is really good at getting to the point. I'm like the guy on the wall, like with all the strings, and he's like,
yes, man, yeah,
no, dude, it was perfect. Y'all, thank y'all so much for being on the show, man.
I appreciate it.
I had a blast. And,
sure.
Yeah, I still don't know where I land on this whole thing, but
you guys never gave your closing thought. You didn't give your what do you? I stand
where my red yarn tape was, where they captured a Yeti and put him in the tent, and the Yeti escaped. That's where I'm at.
Last we knew, Joe was at flatulence. That was the last thing.
It's just a one big fart.
Just blew them out the side of the tent. That's nearly a half mile down the ridge, and then that's how they got the internal damage.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Awesome, guys. All right, man. Fuck yeah, that was awesome, man.
Micah, William, thank you guys so much. Y'all check out a band of bearded brothers, and y'all are on. I mean, the podcast. It's Stitcher. Y'all are on Stitcher too, right?
And Spotify. You guys have expanded.
It's on like Spotify,
iHeartRadio,
Stitcher,
nice
podcast.
I think there's like 2 that we might not be on, little like more maybe obscure ones, but I'm pretty sure if you look us up, or if you at least look up our Facebook group, you can look up that way, and we post the episodes when they're up. We post them, at least I use the crap. You guys just used the term, man, too much drinking tonight. What's the green symboled one? That's the one I use. Spotify. Thank you. God's sake, these words are hard, like Spotify.
You spat out so many Russian words, your brain is scrambled.
God. I still got the Russian hat. There we go. But yeah,
all right,
I appreciate it, guys. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, man. All right, man. Well, we'll talk to y'all later, all right?
Yep. Appreciate it.
All right.
Peace.
Later, guys.